Oh, we're live. This is it. We're back at it every Wednesday, 4 p.m. in the East, right? That's what I'm talking about. Hey, it's Campbell's Rambles here live on the Brian Campbell Experience. Is there a greater joy in this world for a washed dad than an late afternoon coffee? That's what I'm talking about. Every week, you tune in to me talking in circles and forgetting my train of thought. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Brian Campbell, the proprietor of this here BCX channel. Raise the arms of your drug rug and put it together for me, all right? 2-drink minimum. Smoke them if you got them. Rawr, rawr. Mikey has got my back as always. Thank you to you, the viewer, who basically said, look, ain't got shit to do. All right, let's hang out. Let's hang out at BC's Bar and Grill. All right. Okay. Now serving here. So you know the format, you know the routine. I'll update you on my life. I'll talk a little bit about combat sports, and then we'll open up the floor to the people, okay? The people. That's what I'm talking about. So if you haven't done it yet, all right, like the video, subscribe to the damn BCX, tell a friend, all right? Make sure that friend is like in on the joke. Make sure that friend would understand what it's like for a grown man to take a full glass of AG1 on a Wednesday afternoon and just be about that life. You know what I'm saying? Fantastic product, by the way, packed with vitamins. Great subtle, right? Subtle taste right there. Tropical taste. There we go. All right. Um, your boy B Sizzle is here. I'll be doing the talking today. Life is pretty dang good on this Wednesday, February 12th of the 2002 the 25. Yeah, it's winter out. You know what I mean? That's enough to kick you right in the depression hole. But I'm doing great lately. I'm really fired up about life. I hope the same can be said for you. But if not, keep going, keep pushing. You'll get there. All right. Maybe you need a little more cushion on that push, right? I mean, the big ones need love too. In a completely inappropriate. Well, we'll edit that. We'll cut that out, Coulier, afterwards. Um, like I said, it's Wednesday. We will be back, of course, this Friday, 11 a.m. With a fantastic, I assume, episode of Morning Combat, getting you ready for the weekend. By the way, I don't hate this middleweight fight night main event this weekend when Jared Cannonier and Hobocop, get together. So get fired up for that. Friday night, Valentine's Day top rank card, Keyshawn Davis in a title fight. A lot to get into on that. So check out on that. Check yourself actually before you wreck yourself. And shout out to the regulars. They know who they are, right? The Sandines of the world, the Carsons, Big Bad Baines. You know what I'm talking about. These Lazy Bed, like these MFers, Nocita, all the great people in this world that come together and are willing to just listen to me talk in my basement in giant exaggerated circles. Life is good. The BCX channel's rolling on. Very quiet week, not overly ambitious week, but you may have seen the fantastic Inside the Box episode yesterday that Rafe Bugs and myself gave you live. Lot to break down from the fallout of all that Canelo turkey signing and much, much more. Check that out. You got me today. There might be a piece of content tomorrow, but some weeks we bang Tui, and some weeks we just sit in that right lane and just get through the day. You know what I'm talking about. But a lot of good stuff to come on the horizon. I kind of leaked it out in yesterday's Inside the Box, but the phone rang and your boy BC picked it up, and I'm going to be on the call. Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach, March 1st, Brooklyn, Barclays Center. PBC on Prime pay-per-view. We back, baby. Okay, we back with an absolute bang. Okay, Big League BC is back. All right, let's go. We gotta achieve this dream one rung up the ladder at a time. Okay, let's get after it. That's what I'm talking about, Baines. All right, I used to be a big Harold Baines fan, retired number 3 of the Chicago White Sox, but it's just a solid professional hitter. That's what I'm talking about, Lazy Bed. Thank you very much. All right, I want you all to realize something about yourselves, that these same dreams, these same itch. I mean, we've all got an itch going on. Some of you, it's a rash, it could be an STD. You got to get that looked at, but we've all got an itch of what, not what we want to do, what we're supposed to be doing. Only you know that. Only you can hear the vibrations of your soul. Only you know what would truly make you happy in this life. Do you? That's what, no C to the BC at the BC. That's what it's at. The BBC at the BC with a lot of BBC. Okay, so getting down with it, all right? Only you know whether you can listen to that voice, whether you're okay going to bed each night saying, what if? If you're okay with that, then get after it. Put the headphones on, play some Fortnite, right? Just enjoy your life. But if not, you need to have a conversation with that man in the mirror, all right? Or maybe that woman. I don't assume there's females in this chat, right? Never assume that, right? Wow, all right. But shout out to MK. We got the MK mug, the MK hat, the MK drug rug. A lot of MK going on today, right there. Fantastic show every Monday and Friday on YouTube. Check it out. All right. Yeah. All right, one dream at a time. Here we go. We can do this. Hey, let's get into the damn show today, which I'll be talking about a few topics related to the world of combat sports. And then we'll open up the floor, whatever's on your mind, 70s vinyl, 90s NBA, inspirational quotes, whatever you want out of the BC, more or less. We will not be showing butthole today, a change in this week's program. So you have to wait for the only pipes to come out in that regard. But I see you people. I know you see me. I know it can feel like I'm staring into your soul and looking at your disgusting search history. Maybe I am. Maybe you should put a little piece of tape over that spot on the laptop, on that little camera there. But yeah, I'm not trying to peer in that closely necessarily. But thank you for all the support that always comes with this life, this show, this channel. We're just regular people trying to succeed, trying not to go crazy, right? That's what it is at the end of the day. You do have some control, though, on what happens to you. So get fired up, get after it. That's my message. Topic number one today. It hit hard yesterday. We had been rumored about this development for months. And while we certainly don't have all of the info and don't have the answers of what's next, did it hit hard in the boxing broadcasting space that Top Rank is going to part ways with ESPN after 8 years together, with that fine promotion providing content, beginning, of course, remember that huge Pacquiao Jeff Horn fight that happened down under. That was in the very early stages, the beginning of that deal, which led to ESPN renewing. And, we got some pretty damn great fights through the years. Remember that pandemic thriller of Teo versus Loma? But all good things eventually come to an end. George Harrison once told us that all things must pass, right? You know what I mean? Say what you will about the AG1, man. I'm still drinking it, all right? Yeah. Is this news horrible? Is it awful for boxing? Is it a atrocity for the future of American boxing? That is certainly a piece I just finished writing for CBS Sports this week, and definitely a topic of conversation this week as ESPN decided against re-signing Top Rank at the, at the terms that they were used to. In theory, it's not a great development, obviously. Top Rank, of all the boxing promoters today, and we tend to have identified there being 5 at the head table these days. 3 of them now permanently on DAZN: Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy, and then Top Rank, and then PBC. So Top Rank is the old guard, the enduring one, the one that promoted Muhammad Ali, right? The one that's still going with 90-something-year-old Bob Arum, who, if you're lucky enough, like Luke and I was that time, you may be able to run into him in a Vegas dispensary after midnight and take a little picture on your phone. It did happen. It did happen. I think that right away people were like, damn, boxing's going to hell, or damn, this Saudi takeover is going to give us big fights, but what type of fallout in between are we not prepared for or didn't notice, right? It's not just the initial transaction that took place when Saudi arrived, which they said, you will accept our sports washing so that we can improve our nation's image, create a new revenue stream, all this stuff in exchange for great fights. And for the most part, the year plus of the Saudi experience, I got things to pick on, yeah, but for the most part, it's been better than worse, definitely. Do I have concerns and questions for the future? Sure. Now, when Top Rank's deal, which, it had been rumored that upon the ending of this current agreement in late July, that they would be a free agent, we knew about that. The rumors had been heavily steered toward, they'll just go to DAZN. I don't actually think that's a great development for boxing. Now, you do have to understand a few things. I'm coming at you from 4 different lanes at the same time. I'm A, a boxing fan, B, an American boxing fan, C, a journalist at large who these type of movements and shakeups affect certain things in my gainfully employed life, and 4, I'm a burgeoning broadcaster who certainly cares about this. So the idea of 4 of the major fighters going to DAZN, if that happened, of the major promotions, excuse me, leaving PBC kind of where they are right now, of are they with the movement or against it, or are they with the movement? Sometimes, we still don't really know, to be fair. And even me as a PBC announcer doesn't know the full direction of it. But if Top Rank went to DAZN, I wouldn't love that under the main issue that most people have with it, that if we're putting 4 of the 5 power promoters in this game from an American standpoint, right? Not all these promotions are American based, but I'm talking from the standpoint of American boxing fan here. And you're putting it on DAZN, which is a niche app in the States. Internationally, it's a big deal. They got NFL rights. They got soccer, huge soccer rights. They got a lot going on. In the States, you're on there for boxing. That's the thing. The boxing hardcores are largely already there. So if we're taking a power player that Top Rank is, best matchmakers in the game, great production, they got history, great library. And if we were potentially putting it grouped with everybody else on an app that people will not be running into. I mean, that's the thing about boxing. When boxing went off of, primetime national TV in the late 90s, and, I think we can look back and say the Tyson bite was a real bite in the ass for boxing in a sense, in terms of, like, it set the sport back, and it really took whatever was left of boxing on big time cable and pushed it to big time networks and pushed it to premium cable. Luckily, before that, during that, and after that, I say luckily, but there were some pitfalls with it. Yet, when we look back at the HBO and Showtime era in the States, we have largely great memories, right? But boxing was taking off of the mainstream. It wasn't on Wild World of Sports anymore. You're not going to build up this generation of Leonard, Hearns, Duran, all fighting from the Olympics to ABC right in your living room. But if you're an HBO or Showtime subscriber, you could stumble into it. It wasn't hard to get. Nowadays, there's a million channels, platforms, streaming options. So if you're in a position where people can't stumble into it, like, ESPN channel by default is on in most gyms, public spaces, airports, restaurants. So people are going to stumble into different sports, even if they're of the niche variety. Even on ESPN Plus, you will. Maybe not so much on DAZN. So if we're already taking under this Saudi movement some of these really big fights and putting them over in another land, taking away the grassroots buzz of the marketing that comes with building up big fights on American soil, on American TV, whether that's local TV all the way up to an ESPN Sports Center, and we're putting things in Saudi at different times, that's going to be a problem for American boxing to a certain degree. So is Canelo Alvarez, the biggest star, the biggest live gate performer in the States these days, with the backbone of that Mexican-American audience behind him going to Saudi for 3 of the next 4, right? Somewhat problematic. But it was an interesting report that I saw today from Lance Pugmire of BoxingScene.com, who basically said, hold up here. Top Rank's future still largely undecided. They might want to spread their package, if you will. I mean, at the end of the day, will you? Right? Will you? That's the question. They might want to spread that package across 2 to 3 different platforms, which is interesting. Pugmire reporting that ESPN, not out of the equation completely, could have part of the Top Rank deal moving forward, and also reporting that Top Rank could still be in talks right now with Warner Brothers Discovery, which includes TBS, TNT, and the HBO Max app. So I think it's great and huge for American boxing, American television, if a power promoter like Top Rank still had its own home, like PBC does with Amazon Prime. That doesn't disclude them necessarily from their big stars crossing over to a Riyadh Season event or being a part of something big. I mean, even PBC, which has been the most anti-Turkey, just from the standpoint that 3 of its biggest stars, formerly Canelo, Tim Tszyu, and Gervonta, had been very sort of negative that they didn't need Turkey in that regard. They still sent Pitbull Cruz, David Morrell last August to LA for that Turkey card. They're still sending Rolly in May to fight, Ryan Garcia in that Haney Garcia doubleheader. So, like, it's not fair to say Turkey and Saudi are just outright killing American boxing, because Turkey purchased Ring Magazine. He wants to do a Ring Magazine series in the States, and he's going to do this ambitious doubleheader the day before Canelo in May, presumably in Times Square. So some of that, like, the sky isn't falling. right? Necessarily. We just need to figure out, as these drastic changes are happening in really rapid time. I thought the next 6 months to a year had the potential to redefine the direction boxing's going for like the next decade. And that's still very true. Only ish is happening way faster than I thought, right? From this Ali Act stuff and talk of our Ari Emanuel to the sped up timeline of TKO UFC getting involved with Turkey. Not sped up from a launch standpoint, right? We thought they might launch soon. Now it's looking at the end of fall, but if they can repeal the Ali Act, if they can get involved with Turkey financially, if they can reconstruct the foundation of this sport, for better or worse, by the way, through the idea of a prospect league, then we're rapidly changing the face of boxing, particularly to American fans. No question about it. If Top Rank could end up diversifying, but not needing the T of DAZN, and it's not that I have issues necessarily with DAZN. It's not that 10 years ago, if you told me, hey, BC, you know all these problems we have in your great sport? What if we could just combine everybody under one network? What if it could be a taste of what it used to be like under HBO and Showtime as the, as the 1B, but like the best fights will always go there. That still could be in play here. I just don't think everybody by default going to DAZN is going to be the best thing for the sport moving forward. So it is going to be interesting to see where this classic brand of Top Rank ends up, whether they're splitting it across multiple people. And also, obviously, very interesting to close my talk about the perceived slow decline in American boxing, which I don't think is overblown, because, it's already enough of a niche sport, boxing in the States. You depend upon the casual American crossover team sports fans to get hooked once or twice a year by the idea of a big fight they can't miss. And the idea here, and the question here, is if operations are moving abroad, will people anymore care? Will the same casuals that are dependent upon getting enough pay-per-view sales to make money in the sport and keep the cash registers moving, how much would that change in that regard if these changes continue to happen? It's definitely a concern. It's something that's we're watching closely, but it is wild. It's rapid how quickly everything seems to be changing. And I don't know if this TKO thing can work as a league. I don't know if it can work right away, if they can alter everything in boxing, or if the players that are still around are going to be stiff arming and saying no. But if Turkey's the power player with the type of power and leverage that we've never seen before in this sport, we've seen power players. We've had Don King. You got Al Heyman. We've had power players that have done massive things in the sport, either to fill their pockets or to change the sport for the better. I mean, like, we can say what we want about Al Heyman and the launch of PBC, which in 2015 was very much maligned by certain corners of the boxing world. In fact, all of the major promoters sued Al, under the premise of monopoly and the Ali Act, which all of those lawsuits got thrown out. At least you're always going to say, well, Al's goal is to put the money in the fighters' pockets. Like, that's the good that we can accept. Turkey's doing that now, of course. I just hope in the long run that when inevitably the pay scale goes down, when inevitably it seems the control of Turkey and company gets larger, and maybe you take Ari Emanuel, Dana White, and TKO and combine that, is that great for the sport? Is it great for American boxing fans? Is it great for the fighters? I hope. But this stuff is all happening and changing in real life right in front of us. So just trying to keep up with it, trying to swim through it, trying to juggle between the different sides of my brain. That's like, part of me is only thinking about from a fight standpoint, are we going to get great fights that I'm in, right? Part of me is only thinking from the standpoint of the from the journalism business in general in boxing, which you want it to be healthy here in the States. So there's jobs, so there's opportunities, a lot of that is going to be defined in the next 6 months to a year. So things are happening quick. Stay with it. Stay with me on here. I do think the Ali Act change would be a major turn, a major hurdle that has a lot of potential negative qualities to it, but we'll see if that can even happen. It was one flippant comment from Ari in an interview where he was getting heavily glazed by good old McAfee, but Dana's also best friends with Trump. So I guess anything can really happen right here. I mean, look, anything can happen when you have a player in this game that is that freaking powerful, that has that much money, not just coming directly from the kingdom, but now in his private equity that Turkey has in purchasing the ring. But I will say, in totality, the last week in boxing has been a little challenging, right? Like, Like, I'm not against Canelo taking the money. It's prize fighting, going to sign with Turkey. That's his business. He's a businessman. We need to continue to always put that asterisk out there that, like, great legendary star shamelessly ducking Benavidez. True fact, stamp the screen. Absolute true fact. Still love Saul, but an absolute true fact. But him taking the money, look, it is what it is. I'm a little nervous about the old Turkey, like, hey guys, you call me lying, but I'm just going to admit it and it's all good. But moving forward, the Ring Magazine's accounts are going to be journalistically sound and agnostic. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. But, just trying to make a living, just trying to stay a great boxing fan. These are changes we never thought would happen. Never, ever. Look what's happening right now. Wild, wild stuff. All right, topic number 2. I'm going to just spit all over the place. AG1 flying all over the place right here. All right. What a fantastic liquid vitamin beverage, right? I mean, it won't cure cancer, but it's tasty. It's healthy. Number 2 is Keyshawn Davis. And you guys know the BC, right? I love the young up-and-comers, the guys that show you right now that they might have pound-for-pound talent. Obviously, they've got to climb the requisite steps, beat the right people to do that. And I've been a day one-ish Shakur is the best of them all guy when we're talking about the 5 princes, right? Or however, whatever we're naming this group of young, exciting, ambitious American boxers. Well, as I've been talking about ad nauseum, we got to include Keyshawn Davis in there, even though he's only 12-0 up to this point and still 25 years old, one of the 3 DB Davis brothers. His fight with Dennis Berinchyk Friday night, theater at Madison Square Garden, Top Rank ESPN. I love this fight. I actually love this whole card. Shout out to Top Rank. Always smart and properly building up their prospects. You got Abdullah Mason on the undercard. You got Big Baby Anderson coming back. You've got one of the Davis brothers. There's a lot going on there. But it's Keyshawn's time. The last fight was the hometown close-up in Norfolk. It was like, okay, can you and your brothers sell out this arena? And they did. And Keyshawn stepped up against Gustavo Lemos, who was coming off a very good performance in a disputed loss one fight before. And dude, he took him, he sent him to hell. So you're like, okay, what do we got now? Well, we're going to find out now against unbeaten 36-year-old newly minted world titleist Dennis Berinchyk from Ukraine. Same amateur backstory and old team, right? Of the pipeline there of Papachenko producing Usyk, Loma, Vodzdik. He's in that team. He's of that ilk. Not as good as those guys, but his performance over Navarrete, and oh, by the way here, guys, Navarrete speaking publicly about wanting to fight with Pitbull Cruz. Let's go. Let's put that one in Vegas, right? Let's go. Like, wouldn't to close on the Top Rank issue. And obviously you have to take this with a grain of salt. I'm an aspiring boxing broadcaster who's looking for big opportunities. But could you imagine if Top Rank and PBC somehow could coexist on the same network or talent share or match against each other? That would be fairly interesting. And this would be one of those fights that would certainly get me to pop. But it's not about Navarrete here. It's about Berinchyk. Already, I was fired up to see this fight. Huge height advantage for Davis and maybe potentially a huge skill advantage. Although Berinchyk beating Navarrete was no joke. He showed toughness. He showed boxing ability. He had that long amateur career. The guy's legit. Odds wide in favor of Keyshawn, which is telling you that the odds makers truly believe this guy's of the ilk. But did you see what happened today? I don't have the video at hand. It literally kind of just broke out. But at the press conference today, or media day or whatever it was, Top Rank has it where they put the fighters on the stage up on chairs and, questions back and forth. Media takes questions, kind of a press conference. Keyshawn straight up accused Berinchyk and his team of knocking on his hotel room door, leaving behind a box with bananas and watermelon, along with a note that it said, essentially, make sure you're on weight for the fight. Now, Davis brought that up at the press conference and basically added in, right? I mean, let's get right. Look, we got supporters of this show. We got NYM here, right? Big Mets fan saying thoughts on Berinchyk sending that stuff racist, or was he just trying to get signed by the UFC? Wow. Well, hip hop horn. Wow. That's a good one. That's a good one, NYM. And thank you, brother, for the support for this here chat. So Keyshawn fielded it the way you expected him to, going, I think that's racist. And oh, by the way, I'm going to have something for you in this fight. As if like going to win his first world title potentially as a big favorite wasn't enough. He's basically like, I'm going to hurt you now. Spicy, stirring it up, even though we're using racism to stir it up. Now, Team Berinchyk through a translator at first was kind of non-committal, and Keyshawn kept pushing, like, no, answer. Like, you guys did this. I know you did this. And then Alex Krasik, I think that's how you say his name. He's Usyk's guy. He's the guy always translating for Usyk. He's his promoter, manager, one of the two. He was there representing Berinchyk, and basically through the translator, speaking for him, said, no, we didn't do that. But then Keyshawn, then here's what's interesting. Berinchyk says through the translator, no, I don't know what you're talking about. You're making a big scene out of nothing. We didn't put that box out there. But he goes, oh, by the way, though, Keyshawn, just make sure you make weight. And Keyshawn's like, yo, that's exactly what the note said. So we've got something saucy here. Granted, a little bit darker and more toxic than the Sandy Ryan, Michaela Mayer, also a must-see top-ranked main event that they're going to have a rematch soon, where, of course, Paintgate broke out. Was that Rafe Bugs who threw the paint? I don't know. It was like, as much as that's not, I'm going to speak honestly to you as a fan. As much as that is not fair, what happened to Sandy Ryan, and as much as, like, I don't know for sure if Michaela Mayer knew about it, if she did it, if her team did, like, obviously they're denying it, but that was spicy, and I loved it as a fan. I don't love that this is based potentially in racism here, this added sprinkle of attention on here, but to act like it doesn't matter, or it may not affect it, or it may not, no, this fight just got way more intense. Like Lazy Bed knows Sandy Ryan sounds like a 60s pop singer. Yeah, like Leslie Gore. In what's she saying? Yeah, I forgot. I saw her in concert once, Leslie Gore. Shout out to that in an oldies show. There you go. Okay. We also on this topic have B-Vol 11 saying, as long as Keyshawn isn't attacked as he leaves his hotel, whatever happened with that, by the way. Yeah, I still want to know. I'd still love to know. I'd love if somehow Sandy Ryan won the belt back and we get a saucy trilogy out of those two ladies. Either way, though. Either way. Rafe, yeah, Nocita knows. Rafe being the perpetrator on that Paintgate, or at least taking the blame for it publicly, was absolutely hilarious. No doubt about it. I don't know if Berinchyk did it. I'm not going to accuse him. I don't know if this is some gamesmanship attempt from his team that somehow wasn't racistly motivated. Yeah, right. Like, no, it's hard to go that far. But I got to pause this because you know where Nocita was last night? Friend of the show, producer, director, Morning Combat, main card minute guy. He went to the theater in Huntington, Long Island, and saw Jerry Cantrell last night, which got me fired up. My 90s hole got all lit up. Speaking of concerts, BC, Filter opened for Jerry Cantrell last night, and they were really good. What did Filter sing? Did they sing that? Do you want me to take my picture? Because I won't remember. Is that Awake Your Mind? Is that the song we're talking about right here? I have fond memories of Filter, even if I'm not placing exactly what their hit was. Wow. That is the real Bong Island Luke right there. So I just have to say, man, following Keyshawn is already a big thing for me. I think he's special when he speaks with that level of confidence. And then you see the ability in the ring. I mean, he wants all the smoke, but that's actually in a good way becoming a thing again, where it's like everyone seems to want it now. So I almost need to stop, celebrating that, because it's should be expected. First of all, it was the default way that everyone in the 80s and 90s when I came up acted. But now to see this guy be so confident, now he's got something extra to fight for. I'm going to be tuning in Friday night, fired up to see this. We do have Xander Zayas in the co-main. We do got some things going on that card that are worth checking out. I believe right here, we've got something from Matt Borgerson. Ray Borg. Did Schaub ever pay up on that, for the kids? I don't know. Matt Borgerson saying, just wanted your thoughts on Zayas's opponent on this upcoming card. This fight gives me this fight gives you Bakram Murtazalia versus Tim Tszyu vibes. I called that fight or even Sirache Munguia vibes. By the way, Sirache, him and Munguia are going to rematch now on the Canelo William Skull undercard in Saudi May 3rd. I believe that was just announced. Don't you love when Ring Magazine's account is like, sources have told Ring Magazine that this upcoming Riyadh Sizin fight is going to have, dude, it's Turkey who told you, all right? Just fess up already, okay? Zayas's opponent is what, that guy Slawa? Is that what we're talking about here? I'm going to be straight up and honest with you, as I always am. I don't know who this fella is. I know he's unbeaten. I know he's got maybe of the French demeanor. This is Swawa Spomer. He is 20-0 with 11 KOs. I actually don't know a ton about him, so I'm going to be interested in seeing this. Unlike Rafe Boogedy, who's that's the wrong button. Sorry about that, guys. Pretty sure Ray Borg said Schaub stiffed him on a podcast, Mr. Tiddlewinks. Good Lord. That's not good. That's not good. I will say, though, that unlike Rafe Bugs, who I love that man's saltiness, that man is the no BS fight fan. He don't want to hear about the networks, don't want to hear about the business, don't want to hear about this. He wants to see some good fights, okay? Doesn't matter if they're on live, doesn't matter who's calling them unless it's your boy B Sizzle. So I understand that, where he's a little suspect on Xander. We got to see more from him, no doubt about it. Hopefully this will be a test that really answers a few more questions. He's a good-looking Puerto Rican prospect, though. I like a lot. I think he's got a complete game. I like what he brings to the table. We'll find out if that backbone is there, if this is that type of test for him. Maybe not, though. Maybe not. All right. That's topic number 2. And by the way, there's some other like decent boxing this weekend. You got Catterall and the other guy on Saturday in England on DAZN. Why am I not thinking of that gentleman's name at the moment? And then we were supposed to get Oscar Duarte against Regis Prograis, but how about Miguel Maduena jumping in with his heavy hands to replace him? So a couple good things going on in the sport this weekend. We got the Apex card as well on Saturday. It's a little nubs on the way down, but yeah, Lazy Bed knows good looking Puerto Rican prospects amongst my favorite. Yeah, I meant good looking in terms of the hands, but maybe he's an attractive man just the same. You know what I mean? If that's what you're into. And who has my back more than Arturo here from London? Arnold Barbosa Jr., who he's been itching for a fight like this. He's going to get it. That's going to be a good ass fight on the Saturday night. All right, one more piece of BC interest before Mr. Tiddlewinks' fantastic shop joke sliding. And remember that time Ray Borg KO'd Islam? That was one of the more just good-natured, humorous shop slip-ups that we've seen. Do you see? I went on the Reddit yesterday or today, and I saw that Shab compared Dominic Cruz. He called him the Jackie Robinson of MMA because his footwork was so ahead of the game and influenced others. I don't know if that comparison works, to be very clear with you, but tune into the Golden Shower to find out. My final topic of interest right here is to be fair, I'm going to be honest, going back to that boxing discussion. To be fair, I'm a little nervous about the future, how this is all going to play out. Is Saudi going to be a hard and fast, you're with us or you're against us, but we control everything? Is that good for boxing? A lot of questions. I think one of the questions particularly aligned with the involvement of TKO, Dana White, Zuffa Boxing, all of that, Ali Act making us nervous, but this toxic culture in MMA. Now, it feels weird to say that out loud, because boxing has always been a shit show. I mean, if there's not a guy flying in the ring on a fan man, and then he gets his ass kicked when he lands in the middle of the biggest fight of the year, then it's the rampant homophobia that's still around, or boxing is a freaking mess, and it's part of what we love. Obviously, it's part of what we hate, but inevitably, it's what keeps bringing us back. But to some degree, it's a controlled mess, even though the sport in general is disorganized and out of control. There are limits, right? You might get a white person saying the N-word. That's the trend lately. Teofimo, you're killing me, Ryan Garcia. But for the most part, it's more just, the inappropriate, don't be taking my side piece type stuff. Unless you're in the skinhead lane, I know a lot of you are MMA fans. You come through MK, big LT fans, become BC fans, and you're here. Thank you for being here. So you already know this, but it's toxic AF in MMA culture right now, on Twitter, on everything, the way the fighters speak, that, part of me is like, we don't need that in boxing. we don't need that. We don't need that. But look, long way to go still for TKO UFC to get in, show that what they're going to do, show their hand and pull it off. I'm not cheering against them, by the way. I called a fight for them in Dublin last year. I would call a fight for them again in a second. I'm just laying out the facts, trying to juggle these multiple careers at the same time. I use that though, that toxicity. And I'm not necessarily talking about that 5-star System of a Down record from the early 2000s, but if you want me to, I will. All right. I mean, wake up, right? Why don't you put on a little makeup, right? I do that as a setup to say this. You heard me say it briefly on Monday's MK if you dared to watch it. The toxicity's been out of control lately. We all know this. It's not just like, where are you on the political spectrum? I mean, it might be. If you're an extreme right winger and you're seeing Trump, like it might be like this is the best time ever. I don't begrudge you of that, even if I've got certain issues with certain parts of that. And I'm not a left winger. I'm like a soft right winger. But it's situational dependent. But it's toxic as shit. But once in a while, Bushido emerges again. And this recent trend of fighters, and Izzy's doing it a lot, of fighters, connecting early with the Rock, not waiting till the end of the Ali Frazier bitter 40-year war to go, hey, we're old and like hell, but we made history together. Let's just love it. Let's just love. They're kind of doing it now. These rivals are teaming up, going on each other's podcasts, showing up in public together, training together, sharing secrets, right? I mean, Demetrius Johnson has been doing that, having Henry Cejudo on his pod, but now you're seeing Izzy specifically go one by one to all these people. It's making me feel really good. I love on Have You Seen the Shit on Monday. Yeah, I'm with you too, Changs. Really just pretty much a centrist pod. Yeah, I got what you're saying here. Sometimes you got to do that to keep yourself alive, all right? Keep yourself alive. Take me on. Great Queen song. Covered beautifully by the Foo Fighters at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame dinner that one time, all right? Lazy Bed knows that's why he's here. Dom Cruz is the Booker T. Washington of footwork. I've been saying that for years. The Medgar Evers of footwork, right? I don't understand the comparison either. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. Also on this topic, Marc-Antoine Berriot from French Canada says, I agree the toxicity of MMA is out of control. That's why I love shows like MK, both your individual channels and the Main Card Minute. Shout out Gaffney A. Pierre and Luke Nocita. Good vibes in the 8th row. Yeah, you look, good vibes only moving forward, guys. We don't have the tolerance. We don't have the mental capacity. We don't have the patience. We don't have the time for any more of this BS. But the Bushido that has been leaking out in the UFC and MMA in general lately reminds me of the time when most of us really fell in love with the sport. Now, full disclosure, you've already heard me say it. Not ironically, not surprisingly, it was the Keith Hackney, Joe Son, let me punch him in the balls 15 times from UFC 4 that got my attention on UFC, and I already had the illegal black box, and I've been watching since then, with some times off. But how many of us truly became fans in that late 2000s run where they took the momentum from Griffin Bonner 1 and The Ultimate Fighter and suddenly were putting out legitimate pay-per-views competing with boxing, and the stars at the time were young John Jones, Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, you know what I mean? Randy Cooter. We're talking about respect, guys are respectful about the job, about the sport. I've got an uncle that used to watch MMA, but he's ever since GSP left, I can't watch it anymore. It's too saucy and ridiculous. He's like, I love the martial arts, the respect. I love that that's coming out a little bit. And I feel like it just bubbled over inside of me, these feelings of good Bushido, which really, really strongly contrast the other feelings we get when Bryce Mitchell's talking about Hitler or Sean Strickland saying that he'd, kill his gay children or whatever else ridiculi is coming. But the moment that took my Bushido balloon and just blew it up, that took these test eyes and just inflated them with love, was normally the trope that I get mad at. The UFC announcing a Hall of Fame fight, again, never against them announcing fights and putting them in the Hall of Fame. Cool gesture. I still think UFC needs a physical Hall of Fame in Las Vegas on the grounds of the PI, the offices, and the Apex and all that. Up to them. But the idea of oh, you were in one of those fights? So here's Hall of Famer Diego Sanchez. And don't forget to say hi to Hall of Famer Clay Guida. And you might be saying, PC, you're being a dick. Let these guys they contributed something to the history. Let them have their moment. I'm like, their moment is in the Hall of Fame if they make a physical building where it says it in the fights there. I just don't like that that's instant admission to the Hall of Fame because I prefer there to be lines in the sand and standards. I'd loved Don Mattingly, even though I was a Mets fan in the 80s. How could you not love Don Mattingly? But he shouldn't have gotten in the Hall of Fame. Right? I mean, I think, did he end up getting in? Or if not, he'll get in when he's like 75 on the veterans vote. But it's like, there has to be a limit. There has to be okay, you were great for a stretch, but were you Hall of Fame great worthy? That debate aside, when Izzy and Gastelum, UFC 236, the co-main event, the interim, little Lou, he was what murders? Right? What? Yeah, there you go. All right. Maybe you were talking the same joke I was, maybe not, but we crossed swords right there. I felt so good, obviously, because I love that fight, because I was there, because it's the greatest fight I've ever seen. And by the way, I was cage side for Joanna Whaley 1. But to see the fight get recognized now, when I still feel like there's some bangers from the past that they haven't recognized yet. And to see Izzy, they kind of fooled him. They got him to go to the card. He didn't know why. And then you got Dana and Hunter next to him. And, he's pointing to the camera and saying, Gastelum, we did that. And then to see the FaceTime video afterwards and to just kind of like, man, right? Man, just makes me feel good. I mean, is there anyone out there besides me, Jed Mishu II, and possibly Aaron Bronstetter, who was also there, who has received the feelings from that fight as much as I have? And for me, you have to understand, it was like, personally, that was an insane week for me. I had flown to LA the Sunday before, to host 2 episodes of PBC on Fox's face-to-face interview show. And then from there, I flew to, I did a red eye the following Thursday on Alaska Airlines, by the way, great legroom. I did a red eye from LA to Philly. There was a car waiting for me at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. in Atlantic City, drove me to a casino there. I slept for 2 hours in a room that Showtime bought for me, went and hosted the Claressa Shields Christina Hammer weigh-in. As soon as it was over, got in another car in AC, drove back to Philly, and then flew to Atlanta to cover 236 for CBS. So upon arrival Friday evening in Atlanta, after being on the road for 8 days, covering 3 different events, I was just like, man, I'm dead. Of course I was eating like crap back then. I'm just like, I got to go home. I'm dead, whatever. I even worn that ridiculous orange pullover. You may see it in the front media row there with the bright orange sleeves. I was just like, F it. I'm not even wearing a jacket or a tie, like F it, right? No video there accompanying me. Like, I'm just covering it to write the recap and go. It was at a time, by the way, that CBS was sending me to like every UFC pay-per-view because it was hot and I enjoyed the hell out of that. But I could not have wanted to be there less, even though the main and co-main were, on paper, very good fights. I was very much caught up in that mindset of this is 2 unnecessary interim title fights when the champions in both of their divisions are perfectly able to fight soon. This is gratuitous, blah, 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 blah. Only what Dana used to say was proved right in that fight. They all 4 people fought their balls off because of that interim title. That was Poirier's mountaintop moment of proving to himself that he was of that ilk. That 25 minutes could, the line, the freaking line. All right. So to be there, that hangover feeling, tired, cranky, angered, whatever, the card leading up, I believe it was fine. Nothing, maybe I'm missing something that I forgot, and then that co-main event happens. And remember, at that point, we're not really sure who Izzy is completely. We're not. He had just beaten Anderson Silva like 2 months ago. And even in that fight, there was a maligning going on. Did he take it easy on Anderson late? Or was Anderson kind of putting it on him in round 3? We had these thoughts. A lot of people saying, why are we wasting this fight on Anderson? Although, let's not forget the setting of that. If Anderson had beaten Adesanya, he would have been back in a title fight at that age, which is remarkable. But this was still, when he finally meets a wrestler, he's going to get taken down. And you know what I mean? Like, we're still in that mode, like the mode we were heading into that Brunson fight at MSG. And to have seen Izzy be willing to I mean, just pour out the jug because he had to, because Gastelum, who has always been feast or famine, has always largely underachieved, whether it means, making weight or winning fights he should, or what have you. I love the guy, entertains me. I feel like he could have been a champion. I feel like this was the closest he came. He had a championship performance until the unfortunate takedown attempt when he had Izzy hurt. But he came in that night after his title shot against Robert Whittaker was scrapped. Remember when Whittaker had that bowel thing? Was it a bowel thing or did I just add that in there? I don't know. And that just organically turns into, I mean, the kind of fight where you're like, rubbing the shoulders of the guy next to you going, are you feeling what I'm feeling? Is it, it's like the first time you did shrooms, you're walking around the room going, are you feeling it? Are you feeling it? Did you feel that? Was that me or the shrooms? Like, you know the exact conversation I'm having right here. All right. It was that. And it just kept getting better and better. And I didn't even know in the moment when Izzy started round 5 and did the whole, like, I'm willing to die in here thing. I didn't even know about that in that moment. And I just cannot believe how much that fight made me feel. How exciting, the back and forth, the heart of both men. It was pure Bushido. It was just like love and respect for the sport and finding out the limits you can go to. I remember particularly, it was so much time between the end of the main event and the press conference after. It was like 3 a.m. by the time it started, because these guys are so damn banged up, dude. As he came out, face looked like a car ran over it. And I was a big Gastelum fan, so to see him put forth that performance in that moment, I was like, this is it. He could be this good. Marc-Antoine Barrios, I feel like Gastelum came up short to his potential. Would have loved to see him become champ. I think this fight took a lot out of him. I agree with you. I think a lot of these fights took a lot out of him, where he got really close against elite guys, gave a good effort of himself, came up empty. I question his commitment at times. I think if he would have committed to making welterweight, maybe it would have been a different story. But who he was on this night was a truly elite championship level middleweight, and I will not hear any other. I will not hear any other on that. So to then get through that, I'd been ringside at some pretty damn good boxing fights. Not fight of the year stuff, but like fight of the year stuff. 2011, Andre Berto, Victor Ortiz, part 1. But this was really like the first MMA fight, 25 minutes of just like, it had just grabbed, and I didn't want to be there, and it grabbed every part of me and made me feel. And oh, by the way, okay, Fancy, what do you got for me here? Gastelum is the man, but he didn't have the maturity to become his best self. That might be true. That might be true of a lot of us. All right, we got to look in the mirror. All right, we got to look at ourselves in the mirror and say that once in a while. Fancy also saying Gastelum gave his prime to beer and food. I think a lot of us did the same thing, to be honest with you. I get he's a super elite athlete. And then Poirier and Holloway get in the cage a minute later, and we're like, oh my God, how are these guys going to top this? Like, I need a cigarette. What are you doing? And they literally put on a fight that would have been the fight of the year most years. I truly believe that. I'll never forget standing outside State Farm Arena after that press conference ends. It's like 4:15. I've got an early flight, and it took me an additional 40-something minutes to get out of the arena because all the doors were locked at that point. So us media members are scurrying around trying to find like the one door that the janitor didn't have like the big lock on it. And I walk outside, and it starts pouring as I'm waiting for the Uber, and I'm exhausted as crap. It's like 4:20 in the morning, and I'm alone outside the arena in the pouring rain waiting on my Uber, and just saying to myself, it doesn't matter, because I just saw something that I'll never forget. I'll never forget the way it made me feel and the respect that I have for those two gentlemen, or should I say 4 gentlemen, by the way. So yeah, it was 4:20. You know what I mean? It would have been a good moment there if I was more equipped at that. So to see them, and you're right, Dino Don. I mean, at the end of the day, we all can relate a little to Kelvin Gastelum. To see the joy in those two gentlemen, like we did something that they can never take away from us. It reminds me of what I talked about on a recent ramble. Let's celebrate all the wins. All right. We may not be exactly where we want to be, where we know we're supposed to be, where we would give anything to be. Heck, we might not get there. You just don't know. All you can do in life is swing, right? But that was a moment where those two men did something beautiful and proved something about themselves to each other and to the rest of the world. And seeing that amid this era of toxicity really warmed my heart again that there's some good left in the sport. and there's some good people, and there's some great moments. So an unnecessary ramble about a moment that I love and two fighters that I will love forever. And every time I interview both of them, which has been a few times each since then, I always thank them for giving us that fight. And it's a couple times Izzy had like stopped and been like, wow, man, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm like, no, I appreciate that. All right. All right. I'm going to, no, enough of this, BC. All right. Get back to real life. Okay. All right. Appreciate the good vibes talking fights. Yeah, I'm right back at you. Okay. Once in a while, you got to remind yourself that it's the good vibes that fuel us. Okay. It's that get us there. We all want to get caught up in the hate, right? But all right. All right. All right. When that Mr. Tiddling, when that left eye can barely stay open, I know BC is stoned. You'll never know. You'll never know. Well, actually, you probably know. You probably know right now. All right. All right. All right. It was the beginning of the end. Legend of Stylebender, amazing theater. Yeah, it really was. It really was. All right. Now is the portion of the program where my left eyelid starts to close. Yeah. I mean, it's a tick I have. People make fun of it. They have for years. It's fun. You're right. When I chew, this eye goes up like that. It makes me look like I'm, what's that character Luke says? You know what I mean? Hey, we all got things. I got this crooked nose because I ran into the wall when I was 2 years old at full speed. All right. All right. John K., what do you got for me here? Quick aside, then don't let the gray man stop you from reminiscing about the new age good time. You talking about Luke? You talking about Luke Thomas? I like that guy. I like that guy a lot. All right. All right. Now is the portion of the program where I will open up the questions back to you for as long as you're willing. Ask whatever you want. Super chat is open. Thank you if you contribute. No pressure to do that. But let's continue on down the road in this great life together. All right, I'm gonna pick a question here. We're gonna get after it. All right, Kevin G, what do you got for me? Can't wait for BC's first wardrobe malfunction on the main stage. All right, like you're talking about like the tip of the peignoir, like coming out and saying hi. Let's hope not. Let's really hope not. Okay, all right. Maybe I'll just pull it off, and there's like an odd medallion across my nipple. I mean, that's what Janet was rocking, right? Yeah. Great stuff there, Kevin G. All right. Let's go back over to AZ Ray videos. We love this guy, Arturo. How pumped are you for the Better Bivol 2 card? That's February 22nd. It's in Saudi. It is on Days In. And yes, I am very, very pumped up for this card. Like, is it the best card of all time? I know that's the tagline. It's been the tagline on a few Turkey cards already. There was a stretch where that Terrence Crawford versus Madrimal fight was getting that billing and treatment. And I still think in hindsight that the removal of Virgil Ortiz versus Tim Tszyu, which was a big part of why that fight card was going to be just kick me in the feel hole, right? I think it downgraded that. I'm not a hater. I don't know for sure. This might be the deepest card we've seen in boxing. It's definitely equivalent to like a major tentpole UFC pay-per-view under the old plan of majors, right? IFW, MSG in November, the December Vegas one, and the fourth would be sometimes the March Vegas one, sometimes the April Brooklyn one. You are now, I guess you could say, the October Abu Dhabi card, because they tend to program those in the Middle East a lot better than they do the domestic ones or the Aussie ones, guys. All right. There was a debate on MK about that. Not sure if you saw it. I'm insanely pumped for this. Like, I've seen some of the billing and they're like, this is the greatest card ever. What did they specifically say about it? I took a screenshot of it earlier. I was like, this is aggressive. Do I have that there? The fight card of the century, it says. I mean, it's much. It's saying much, but not going to hate here. I want to see Shakur versus Floyd Schofield, even though on paper it's kind of a weird, lopsided, too early matchup. Kid Schofield wants to smoke. I'm here for it. Dubois Parker, yes. Now AJ wants to fight Dubois. Usyk said I got 2 fights left, and I want one of them to be Dubois. Parker I'm all in on that. Even Adamas Shiraz, down the line, there's a couple others too. Isn't Big Bang Zhang on that against Ajit Kabayel? But even if none of those were on it, and we were just getting this light heavyweight undisputed clash part 2 so quickly after the first one. And here's the crazy thing. I know the first fight was, you guys hate when I say this term. It's a 2-word term. The initials are TT. You know what I'm about to say? Technical thriller. You guys hate when I say that. And what that means is it's a fight that's not an all-action war, but it's at a high pace and the technique is through the roof and you don't know who's going to win and it thrills you. First fight was that. I think this second fight's going to be more action-packed and better. But we got that fight last year in a year that we got Usyk Fury 1 and 2 and that incredible Bohachuk Ortiz war and a few other, Serrano Taylor 2, Sandy Ryan Mayer. Like there was some really cool fight of the year contenders. And Better BF Bivol just got completely forgotten. Yet I actually thought that first one could have been fight of the year on some sort of slow year. So the fact that that fight was so great and it just was another in a long run of that year that Riyadh Season put out and is threatening to put out on the regular, I'm insanely excited about this. This is going to be this is great, but it's starting to get to the point. And to be honest, I don't think this is a negative yet, and it's almost too much of a good thing. There's almost like too much. And it's not true because like March is kind of a down month for MMA and boxing in terms of like major events after you got Tank March first, a few other ones in between. But we're getting these just transcendent, incredible fights. And then we're getting the rematches right after. And it's just like, hey, when's the next big one? A month and a half? Let's go. Like, I can't complain. It's almost too much of a good thing, but I can't complain. Turkey has already said that if it's Bivol, the winner, who I had winning the first one, a lot of you guys did too, that they're going to do an instant trilogy. So good things to come. But yes, Arturo, AZ Rays, I'm in. All right. What do we got going on? So see, there's two conversations. There's my conversation and then there's your conversation. And sometimes they're talking about the same thing. And sometimes I'm pulling context out of context. Kay Hansen OnlyFans, how explain? Yeah. See, there's another thing. I'm pulling out of context. I don't think I need to get into this conversation. All right. Do I understand what you're talking about? Yes, but I don't need to be into this conversation. All right. Let's keep the fun going. Let's go. 9:15 a.m. Interesting name. I don't know the reference. All right. What was that song 311 used to have off the Grassroots album? It's 8:16 a.m. Will you wake up to me? Yeah. Sing it, Nick Hexum. And didn't Spin Doctors have that song? What time is it? 4:30. No, it's early. You remember that song, right? Or maybe I'm the only old guy here. There's no buzz at all for this card. You're referencing the Feb 22nd Bivol Better BF greatest card that ever happened. Yeah, you're right. And I wonder if some of that no buzz is just that Bivol and Better BF for being all-time greats and pound for pound legends right now. Like, they're not household names in the States. They're not moving the needle huge. But this is part of the, and I'm only speaking from an American, but you guys from Aussie, from the UK, maybe you're from the Falkland Islands. You guys are probably like, BC, I don't have these problems of yours. But from like the American fan standpoint, I wonder if this is part of the overall thing that's happening when the fight cards are taking place over there on an app that is fine, right? It's good, but like not everybody has it here in the States. This is the fear we have, that the momentum, the buzz, the conversation that pulls people in will not be happening. It'll be only happening on this chat and by the water cooler with that one weird guy in your office who kind of understands fights, right? We all have like the one friend or brother-in-law who like kind of knows fights and we just talk their ear off in person. In fact, we may make them not like boxing anymore, but they're a lifeline for us. All right. I believe through these many fluids that I'm putting in my body that you know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, let's keep it going here. I mean, this is one of the better experiences I've had, this Brian Campbell experience. All right. Matt Borgerson, just out here supporting it. You said if Keyshawn you're just out here supporting the channel twice. Thank you. If Keyshawn gets through Berinchyk, he's favored to do so. He's favored widely, but I think this is a real fight. Would you like to see him fight Tank for unification next? Oh my God, Matt Borgerson. Or would you prefer to have him have a title defense? So we did have this conversation yesterday on the Inside the Box with Rafe Boogsy and myself, yours truly. And he did kind of bring me back down to earth when I'm like, wait, if this man, Keyshawn, wins this title at 35, which includes fellow title holders Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Tank Davis, could we be seeing him against one of them later this year? Or maybe Gervonta versus Shakur, which don't forget, I said if I could pick any fight in this whole sport that would please my boxing fan heart right here behind the drug rug patch, I would pick this one, and I still mean that. because it's young but now mature greatness, one-on-one. Let's go. And then Rafe put me back down to earth and says, probably more likely that, Keyshawn would defend in-house, top rank, maybe someone like Raymond Murataya. And I think that would probably be more likely. But I think Keyshawn wants to stay really active this year. And whether we're talking the very end of this year or early 26, the real question that you're asking is, are we going to see Keyshawn be pushed and really get projected ahead into really huge fights? Now, that question is dependent upon a few things, maybe even where Top Rank goes for their TV deal, by the way. But he wants it, dude. And it's not only the trend that I keep bringing up for these young American boxers. They all seem to want it. But I also think it's not going to matter that he has 12 fights now. Like, did it ultimately matter when David Morrell, who only had 11 fights, fought someone way more experienced? Yeah, it did. The experience gap did seem to matter in that case against that opponent. As of yet, I don't think it has mattered yet for Keyshawn. Doesn't mean it won't, but he's going to match quick. And I think he's got the ability to hang with these guys. And I can't wait to see, and I can't wait to find out. And if he has any opportunity, whether it's through Turkey, whether it's through whatever, he's going to say yes. He's going to do it. So let's see. Let's see what happens here, Matt. But you know how boxing is, especially with the splintered promotions for the most part, although DAZN, again, encompassing everything now in-house slowly. It's not that it's impossibly hard to make any fight right now. It's not hard to make really any fight, to be very, really fair. Except for a couple exceptions, like Tank's going to fight on PBC as of now, right? Like he's not going to make the leap to Turkey as of now. So it's maybe hard to make some of those, but I just think you'll see Keyshawn go defend it and then mount up and see where we're going to go next. But we got to keep this flowing. We got to keep this moving. Boats and Hose 37. I mean, that's a hell of a weekend if you can get it, right? Wow. Okay. Was the Saudi card or the UFC 312 card better on paper? Just a timeless debate among middle-aged man children that like Luke Thomas and myself. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll address it. You want me to? Luke and I are fine. We're more than fine. We talked. Everything's good. Everything was never not good. I didn't, leave that episode, although there was a weird sort of heated moment, feeling like we need to fist fight or we need counseling. But I think Luke was half fooling and got more serious than maybe he expected or I expected, but in the end wasn't actually that serious. I mean, look, there's things in the show where you're towing the line, you're floating between, this is my real opinion, but we're kind of doing theater. We're kind of doing pro wrestling here to some degree. We're and I don't mean I'm faking. I don't mean we're coming here and lying. I just mean like, I'm always looking to counter that dude and press a button, right? And sometimes I'll hit that button straight on and things will happen, right? But I think he lost an argument. And that was why I made the question, made that part of that segment around that. Have a little fun back and forth, defend your honor or take the L. We'll be fine. The show will be fine. Mom and Dad will not be fighting all the time. All right. We're going to get through this. Thank you very much. It happens with Luke. It happens with everybody. Okay. It does happen with Luke sometimes, but you know what? I know that man's heart. We're talking about a ridiculous show in which we debate, which we argue combat sports. All right. It's fine. Everything's fine. Thank you. Okay. Let's hear from Bivol. Boxing needs to attract the casuals, but they can't find it if they never had a chance to become future hardcores. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the system. That's how you bait them. That's how you bring them in, right? It's like, oh, I've heard of that fighter. Who's he fighting? Oh, is this like a really big one? Oh, you're getting it at your house? Oh, I can illegally stream this very easily. Like that's the buildup of how it happens. Oh, I heard somebody at work talking about that fight. Oh, I think I saw something on SportsCenter about it, right? That's how it happens. To act like we don't need or want the casuals is wrong. Of course, in both sports, we get upset whenever a really big fight crosses over really and suddenly like, Stephen A. Smith or some talking head that you may not love or respect their fight opinion or speaking matter of fact. And we're just like, oh, but whatever on that. That's price of admission. We need these big events in both sports. We need Jones Aspinall to wake up the casuals in UFC saying, this might be our biggest fight ever, even if it's not even close. We need that. This is part of the life cycle of keeping it healthy. Everybody's got to eat. The fans have to feel like they're getting their money's worth. Let's go. Let's go. All right. There we go. Thank you. Sometimes I feel like I'm making a ton of sense. And then, other times I'm like, am I alone? Is anybody else here? Did anybody else feel like I felt when Gastelum and Adesanya did that? Apparently not. All right. Apparently not. Let's go over to respect RSPCT. Tell that what it means to me with your Canadian loonies. Thank you. Thank you for that. How old were you when you acquired? How old was I when I earned six figures for the first time? That's a really personal question. RSPCT. I do know the exact moment. It would be when I was 41 years old. And I say that to look, different things happen in my career, different things happen in everyone's career and walk. If I would have stayed in school and graduated, got a journalism degree, like would I have gotten up the ladder faster? Or maybe would I be selling insurance right now? You never know what's going to happen in life. But dropping out of college, taking the long way, taking the MBA 10-day contract route, I definitely wasn't ahead of the game financially, was chasing instead. And as I try to tell anyone in good faith when they do pop in and ask me email or DM or something, hey BC, I'm in the industry, I want to be doing stuff like you are, how should I get there, what should I do? And I'm always like, well, what I did in 2005 or 2015 probably not going to be applicable today when the business is changing so rapidly. But I do always try to tell them RPCS, the hell am I talking about? I do try to tell them ultimately, and maybe it's like this in every profession, but specifically this one, you better want it. You better really want it, because it's going to be a long road. It doesn't mean the road won't be fun, but there are going to be extreme challenges of where you had done a lot of work, sometimes for free, often for free in the beginning. And you're gonna hit walls. You're gonna hit those moments, those truth moments where it's like, am I fooling myself? Does my family deserve more? Should I just be doing anything? Should I be in that Amazon truck just because it's a guaranteed? You know what I mean? Like, what the hell should I be doing? And sometimes you got to make those decisions based upon your family situation, and people end up in jobs they're not happy with. I fully get how that happens. For me, though, there were certain points in my rise with two young kids, a wife, a high rent, trying to live in a town that could properly provide for my kids what they need, where it had to work. It had to work. There was no other way. And those are sometimes the moments that truly propel you to the next level, because there's no excuses left anymore. There's no laziness. There's no anything. You got to get after it. And I did, and I climbed the mountains, and I'm still climbing them today. But the money's at the end. The money is at the end, folks. Okay. It is at the end. All right. And it weeds out who's not supposed to be there and who's not wired for this and who doesn't want it and who doesn't have the passion for it. And it's not just this profession, it's in every profession. That's why I believe so much in aligning your occupation with some form of a passion or desire of your heart, so that it's never work for you. So that you look back and go, I didn't have a meaningless career where I built up a crappy 401k and gave this company 25 years of my life I'll never get back. You can look back and say, I'm proud of what I accomplished, how I changed the culture in that newsroom or office, the friendships I made, the things I accomplished that I didn't think were possible, the art that I may have put into the world. You want to be able to look back on the journey and say, yeah, man, that was not only all worth it, it's actually better than the destination. Only I don't actually think that's true, because if the destination is calling fights like I'm doing right now, that's better than anything I did on the way up. Okay. You better believe that. Thank you very much. All right, let's keep it going here. Am I talking to myself? I don't know. All right. Yeah. Dazarico, if that's your real name, Daz Riccio, says, truth, loving it doesn't mean it's not work. It means it feels worthwhile. Yes. It means, like, I had nearly 12 years at ESPN, and they were hard, and I worked till 4 a.m. so many freaking times. It's ridiculous. And everything about it was hard. But maybe one day out of 11 and a half years did I feel like it was work. And I was like, man, I don't want to go to the office today. F these people. No, I wanted to go there and prove myself. I wanted to be around sports and be in this place that was a dream that I never thought I'd get to. You got to be, if you don't have that, that's why, like, You can't fake passion because it's either real or it's not. So if there's still time for you to go down that other road, you might want to think about doing it because you only get one chance. Okay. Okay, Biggie, give me one more chance, right? You only get mom spaghetti one time. All right. If you get my drift. All right. Enough of this Tony Robbins stuff. Okay. Where are we at here? What do we got next? I'm going to go over to this guy. All right. We hit that earlier. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. I'm still learning how to use this. Okay. All right. Tampa made RMT. Shout out to Tampa, Florida. Right. So many pro wrestlers from Tampa, Florida. And boxers, by the way. Keith One-Time Thurman from that area. Jeff Lacey. Winky Wright. Antonio Tarver. Thoughts of Bear deleting the Bryce. So you're referencing the Jackson podcast with this guy Bear, who we found out from the subsequent Rampage Jackson, who's the co-host video, that Bear owns the podcast, works for Jackson, and it was his idea. They brought Bryce Mitchell on. They brought Bryce Mitchell on immediately after the Hitler thing, right? And then they kind of kept interrupting him and being like, we don't even want to give you a forum to talk about that stuff. And then, there was some preaching from Bear. I saw some of these clips, and I'm not saying that Bryce didn't deserve to be preached at, believe me. But it's it is somewhat questionable when you're doing it right after a controversy and people are going to tune in because of the controversy, but then you're like, we're not about this and we're not doing it for that. And then inevitably just pull it down. Maybe pulling it down is the right move in the end if Bear or they came to a conclusion of like, you know what, this didn't work out the way we thought, or it wasn't worth it, or what have you. I'm not against giving Bryce a chance to further explain or redeem himself. I am big on second chances in life. I do feel like there is good in everybody. I do feel like that lyric from the opening track, False Alarms, on on Josiah Johnson, his debut album after leaving The Head and the Heart, where he said, do the work to keep yourself open to other people's magic. Right now, Bryce isn't that magical, but I do believe there's good in him. I'm not against necessarily him getting the chance to say that, but his answers were pretty crappy, and his reactions and his explanations were pretty crappy too. So maybe all in all, it's a net win. They pulled it down. I just really hope UFC, because they're certainly not showing us this, because Dana's very much on this free speech kick. This is what we're all about, blah, 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 which is such a departure from the old UFC. It's mind boggling, even though it's not like I don't understand it. Right. And it's not like I want to live in a world where somebody can say one thing wrong and is dead to us. I don't want to live in that cancel world either, but I certainly want to live in a healthy world where there's, where there's Jersey barriers vocally, where if you do go in that area, MFer, you know what I mean? You're going to have to pay the price, right? Like, I hope behind the scenes UFC is educating, is putting out feelers to the fighters. It's just basically being like, could we stop this? I don't know if it's true. Maybe the love of all this great Bushido lately will just, maybe we'll have a season of good times and great oldies in the UFC, but good Lord. And maybe you're listening and going, hey, BC, I can't get behind you. You sound like a tulip. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Hopefully it's an edible tulip, like in the Willy Wonka chocolate factory when they walk into that first room with the river, you know what I mean? A chocolate river, right? Augustus Gloop, that Hedon, right? Save some room for later, you fat piece. No, that's rude. He was big boned. He was definitely big boned. All right. Am I alone? I don't know. B. Vaugh, what do you got for me? His apology message was so obviously written for him that, nothing came across as sincere or understanding. I hope this, obviously, the negativity of this changes him and forces him to dig deeper and find that good that I do believe is in all of us, even though obviously a lot of us do have issues. Unchecked mental health, by the way, is a major issue in all of our lives if it stays going. Okay. Like, no doubt about it. So it's hard. Life is hard. All right. Rick 94, feed Bryce to Ilya. Yeah, I mean, that's the worst part of Dana's reaction. I know we covered it ad nauseum, but just be like, well, hey, tune in and he'll get his retribution in the cage. We'll make sure of it. You guys will, like, okay, thank you. All right. Is he outside your window? Are you in a, I don't know. Enough Bryce Mitchell for today. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go over to Sleeto. Sleeto. BC, thank you for the K Hansen OnlyFans suggestion. I'm not sure I actually suggested that. Significantly more explicit than I was expecting. Shout out to you, Papacito. Wow. Yeah, I don't endorse that necessarily, but if that's your entertainment lane, get after it. All right. I mean, it is just, I have mixed emotions, obviously, about that whole business, that whole side, like the whole, like, we're just going to soften up the sex trade in a sense and be okay with this. And athletes are sort of like, yeah, if my career doesn't go the way it's supposed to, I'll just go down this lane. And, it's a free world. You can do what you want, but it's like depressing and disappointing to see how many fighters are just like, yeah, I'll just do this instead. Yet, if your boy BC was 22 living in a third floor apartment downtown as an absolute dirt hole, which he was, would he be using all of his discretionary income? Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, that's just the reality of life. Yes. But I would have been wrong in doing so. Believe me. Whatever. All right. Let's hear from DJ Serenity. When? Now. Right frickin' now. I'm not sure what the BC experience smells like, but I bet it's sour. I can get down with that. I'm down. I'm like, yeah. I'm not really down with sour beers, by the way. Like I got into it a little bit. I like it a little bit, but too much extra stuff in there brings the hangover on with like a massive javelin right through my skull. But I love the smell of it. But nothing smells better than like a really floral IPA. A really like, it kind of smells like weed. Like it really does. Like the smell of those IPAs just sometimes like heaven. You just try to forget the hangover that's coming. It's just great. I've had old man's disease with that for a long time. Maybe it's liver related. Who knows? But yeah, whatever. I'm no doctor. I just try to listen to them in real life. Okay. Let's hear from Two Changs. We love this guy. Okay. He's a wild man in Las Vegas, loves Oregon football. Anthony Hopkins just got cast to play Customato. Think his performance will top George C. Scott's. Man, George C. Scott was a hell of an actor, but so is Anthony Hopkins. Yes, I had not heard that yet, and I feel like this is going to be awesome. So yes, I'm with you on that, Two Changs. And by the way, completely unrelated to this, but I had some 8th row viewing of that Netflix Elvis documentary last night that Jason Hehair of ESPN Jordan Last Dance fame put together. I didn't even know that guy was behind it until I watched the opening credits. And I've long, Two Changs, been a lover. Well, lover's a gross word to use, I guess, in this case. An admirer, an idolatrator of not only Elvis growing up, with the King like I did, big presence in my life. My dad was a big Elvis fan, but the 68 comeback special to me is like the most revered, like it's the coolest, like nobody was ever cooler at any point in life than Elvis at the 68 comeback special, in my opinion, in the full black leather jumpsuit, the dyed jet black hair, and, putting on a 20-song variety show to reclaim his career. But they use the Last Dance documentarial formula to show what led up to that and how Presley went from overnight sensation, biggest star, the face of rock and roll, to taking 2 years off in the military, to, getting almost exploiting himself through Colonel Tom and becoming a crappy movie star, and then not being taken seriously musically at all and not doing a live show for 7 years, and then coming back with that concert. And I didn't know of the apprehension and anxiety and self-doubt that Elvi had entering the coolest moment that anyone's ever really been that cool. Great piece of business. I've been watching that. I watched the Springer doc on Netflix too. You guys check that out? Wild. It's crazy though, because I mean, like that show was the freaking 90s. I graduated high school in 1996. That show was everywhere and was kind of like, it defined that era of like crazy alcoholic fights on Real World and the Springer Show and the Jerky Boys tape, that CD that everybody had. And, it's like, man, what a raunchy, absurd time of life. And that's sort of what made my dirtbag generation a man, Wow. Looking back. Wow. What do you got for me, Des Riccio? Idolatrator equals idolater. I mean, grammar is loose and flexible in this ramble. Very, very flexible. Nocita saw that doc. First episode of the Springer doc was good. Second was all about the murder and less about the show. You're right, but spoiler alert here. But Nocita, while the second episode was exclusively about that death, the death is the tipping point of the whole show. Meaning, not only was it like the mountaintop moment for the show in terms of like popularity and viewership, and then brought on the decline, but it summed up the gross motive behind the scenes from the beginning of those producers to get regular people with issues and kind of trap them and set them up and and explode on each other and ruin their lives on TV while the crowd's making fun of them. And I mean, dude, some of the greatest moments of the 90s was getting home from school, turning Jerry Springer on, because it was on every channel every hour, almost as much as Saved by the Bell was syndicated back then. And there would just be somebody in the crowd be like, yeah, I got a question for that fat piece of shit over there. Be like, no, not that fat one. The other fat one that looks like she's pregnant. Yeah, that that's like the whole discourse of the show. It's great. But that murder showed what happens when it was parallel the same time with the Attitude Era in pro wrestling and the Monday Night Wars and the how do we one up each other and get more extreme and ridiculous. It was all about, everything was extreme back then. It was all about that time. But that's what happens when you don't have guardrails, when you just keep going. There was a murder. It's disgusting, but at the same time, did I love that show in the midnight? You could. I loved it. I used to have a crazy uncle who, if that show was on and there was like crazy people on, the dude would just go nuts and like, swearing at the TV and point. Like, that show made people moved in weird, gross ways. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, there we go. All right, enough of that. Thank you. Next we have Fancy Mortimer. Love this individual, right? Probably a creeper. No, just kidding. Great credit to his community, no question. Campbell channel power slap watch alongs. Come on the BCX. Yeah, we could consider that. Catch you at the Waterbury Open next week, right? Yeah, there we go. Thank you very much. That is just the worst sport ever. I mean, just like like, at the end of the day, do I have issues with Dana? No, Dana's Dana, whatever. We all loved Dana at one point. We all cheered for Dana for a lot of it. I got pictures of me and Dana, ESPN, multiple times when he would come in for meetings and we'd pick his brain and all that. Like, but I can't come to terms with his brain and trying to understand why he thought this was the right move and the next big thing. And I'm not doubting of where they could take it socially, and of course they brag about these numbers that I don't know, they couldn't possibly be real. It's a spectacle, but to do that while you're the promoter of like the greatest fight brand ever, that you would not want to play up CTE and the effects of that, it's just like a blind spot. That's like, how do you not like take this effort and put it into boxing or kickboxing or grappling or something, please? What are we doing here? Or maybe he's just smarter than I am and he knows the true palette of the random American or global person. But I don't think, despite the numbers that they're yelling, that anyone cares about this or talks about this outside of flipping, doom scrolling and going, oh my God, you see Dumpling just got KO'd by the flying crazy Hawaiian? Oh my God. End of topic. We're done. Do you want to watch this for 3 hours? No. Do you want this or American Gladiators? Gladiators. Yes. Thank you. All right. Yes. All right. This is Andrew Nance. Didn't vet him. Don't know anything. Welcome to the chat, though, Andrew Nance. Okay. Appreciate your contribution to all things Team BC. Gaethje versus Hooker. Who you got, BC? You the man. No, Andrew Nance. You're the man. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Are you? Only you can look in that mirror and know that, Andrew. All right. All right. This fight's great. And I was up on my matchmaking high horse, and I was originally like, yo, this is a co-main event on a pay-per-view. And then I was reminded by people I care about, like Brent Brookhouse of CBS Sports, He's like, normally I'm with you on this hate, BC. But this fight bangs. And oh, by the way, it's like, title contention. And Hooker is reimagining himself right now in this era of his career when we've counted them out so many times. And Gaethje, we're certainly questioning coming off of that Holloway knockout. So this will be a war. And what Luke Thomas said is not incorrect about, like, you kind of be watching it through your hands to some degree. But who wins is the question. Can Hooker's ambition and gnarliness, and oh, by the way, he's obviously a very good fighter. I mean, I don't think he gets as much credit as he deserves for his losing performance against Poirier. Felt like a man that night. But if Gaethje is like at least 74% of Gaethje, I still think he's the better fighter. I still think he's the more violent fighter with the better weapons. But it's an if factor. It's what percentage is he really at? Or maybe he looks like he's 83% himself, but his chin is 40%. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying here. So, Andrew Nance is like, yo, I put my money on the line, BC. I need who you got at this moment, as we're like a little bit out at this moment. Who do I have, Nance? Oh, maybe it's Jim Nance's kid, right? Who do I have? I'm still leaning Gaethje at the moment. And maybe it's this part of me that doesn't want this era to end of these great action fighters. And, maybe it's the part of my soul that remembers that he was potentially one calf strike away from putting Khabib in peril. And one day, folks, I will get that answer for you from the mouth of Khabib. One day. Okay. One day. All right. I'm going Gaethje right now. I want him to win. I want him to not be done. I really like Hooker too. Damn, I'm going Gaethje at the moment. Thank you. We're rambling. That's what we're doing here. All right. This is a great question. Probably. We'll see. David McCaslin. Thank you as well. Just look at these people just being like, yo, BC, you're our guy. You piece of crap. You're our guy. BC, do you fug? I mean, I have. With the Gaslight Anthem. 59 Sound and American Slang are damn good albums. I have never heard of this band, I assume. I will add them to the list of bands that I will add to my Tidal app, Tidal. Great app that Aaron Bronstetter got me on. The Gaslight Anthem. I'll get back to you on this, all right? I really will, David McCaslin. Thank you very much. Lately, I'm into this Rat Boys album, The Window, that John Baltz gave me. Oh my God. I can't stop putting it on. Okay. But that's just me. You do what you do. Thank you. Alan W. Like, life is good when Alan W. shows up. He's probably a fine gentleman. I'd like to get him on the show, but I don't know about this guy. I think he's mysterious. Go watch. How about that, Alan? The Bastards of Baseball. Bing Russell's AAA Oregon baseball team. Go watch okay. Is that a show? Is that a Netflix thing? Is that a jam? Or are you telling me to go to the stadium? I need more information here, Al Dub. All right. I need it. Thank you. But Alan W, one of the finest people we got. Definitely. I mean, if I had to bury a body tomorrow, who am I going to call? No questions asked. Alan W. No questions asked. All right. Thank you, Alan. We'll be, hope you got a shovel. Thank you very much. Jay Allen, my guy, dude, this is my guy, right? What up, BC? Watching with my 1-year-old Quincy, aka Q. Shout out to Q. Shout out to the next generation of Jay. That's what I'm saying right there. All right, get him up early on the BCX. This is what men do. Yeah. Can you give him a shout out? Yeah, Quincy, aka Q, my man. This is just the beginning of a fruitful, blessed, and amazing life, okay? But even though you're in the infancy at the moment, even though it's early, I want you to know it's never a bad time to tell the truth and to be a man. You got this. You come from good seed, or at least I'm purporting. And I believe that this is just the beginning of a fantastic life for you and your family. Walk boldly, young Q, in the direction of your dreams, and do not be worried about what the next step is or what the answer is. It'll find you as long as you're doing what's right. All right. That was advice for Q and the rest of you. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, there we go. Big fan of Jay. Thank you. Alan comes back. Wow. Thank you, Alan, for the support over here. As always, Reggie Jackson or I riot, you son of a bitch. He might come. We're going through a hard time with Reggie right now. He has a dental issue. He's got teeth that need to come out badly, and he can't have the surgery though until he gets through his pneumonia battle. So he's on meds. He's got 4 breathing treatments a day, and he's a squirmer, so it's not easy. But we're gonna get him back up to speed. His tongue is like stuck out of his mouth because of the issues at the moment. But this guy's fighting, and he is a fighter. And even a heavily medicated Reggie still can't do anything but live his life right here under my. So we're nursing this fella back to health. I love this guy. That's my guy. He gets me. I mean, I get him too. He's just a maniac, but you know what I'm talking about. R.I.P. Barbas. Like, no one wants to go through any of this. And Reggie's young. He's going to get through this. He's going to be back. But that's my guy. You're my boy, Reggie. Okay, Blue. Thank you very much. That's life, fellas. That's life. Okay. Yeah. Much love out to you. Thank you. Thank you, Greg Gidley. You know, I mean, he is the Gooch Amos prime, you know, as opposed to the washed Gooch Amos, right? Yeah. Lazy, but if we lose Reg and Barb, we're not losing anyone. All right. R.I.P. Barbas had a great run. But Reggie's a fighter. Okay. I told you, he always beats up on the girls. His like any active MMA fighter, his head movement not desirable, his defense not desirable, but he'll throw. That dude will throw. He will let it go. Very quick to bite. That guy, very quick. You know, when we got him at the shelter, it was like you know, these people are saints. These people that welcome in rescues or strays or what have you and rehab them. They're saints. These are the people that we need to protect. But he was in a house with a lot of dogs, and he was in like a playpen in the middle of the floor with like all these dogs running around. So like he grew up in chaos. He's a chaotic dude, but you know, I'm softening him. I wonder, right? I wonder, but whatever. We'll keep it going. All right, there we go. This one's from L&W. Sweaty balls again, Mikey. FML. I don't know the reference, Al, but thank you. Thank you very much. Mikey is here. We love Mikey. Protect Mikey with everything we have. All right. Let's go back over to Champy. The champ is here. Okay. Speaking about Gaethje, Arizona Boxing and MMA #1, Team Benavidez, Team Ramos, Team Gaethje, Team Cejudo, Team Carbajal. Yeah, shout out to Arizona Boxing and MMA. Does it always get love? No, it really doesn't. But like that is there's some things going on there. There's some fighters, there's some good boxers that have come out of there of late. No question about it. And you know what? I don't think Jose Benavidez Sr. gets enough love as a trainer. For sure. And he was a great trainer for his son, Jose Jr. in the amateurs, who was a huge star back then and was also in Creed 3, by the way. But yeah, Jesus Ramos just got a quick turnaround. You know, he beat Banana on the Morel Benavidez undercard. He will be back on the triple header that PBC just announced, March 22nd. Not on pay-per-view, on regular Prime Video. Sebastian Fundora finally back after that Tim Tszyu fight, going to take on Cordell Booker, representing Stamford, Connecticut. And we're going to get Jesus Ramos on that card as well. So looking forward to that. Big fan of that guy. Jesus Ramos, good, honest fighter. Good young fighter. I think he learned a lot from the Lubin loss. He doesn't believe he lost, but I think that considering the depth PBC has at 154 and considering they got to put their best foot forward and make fun fights, I think they're positioning him to be in some of these. And it is fun at 54 if Spence gets back and can rebuild himself in this division, if Jermell comes back, if Tszyu builds himself back up, Keith Thurman's back, you've got the traditional players around there. So there's some things that, you know, Fundora, like there's some things that could be done here. We'll see. Alan, you were talking about on Netflix. I need to watch that about the Oregon baseball team. I will watch that, Alan W, and get back to you. I'm not consistent on these apps. You know, like everybody else pretty much lives off of Prime, Netflix, whatever you have, right? Paramount, Peacock, whatever you got there. And people are kind of regularly fielding the Max app, underrated. People are regularly fielding what's coming in. You know, I'm not on those apps on the regular. I'm a big YouTube guy, like the kids, watch some 90s NBA, big Fortnite and vinyl guy, as you already know. But I'll go on these binge runs where I'm just like, oh, there's like 6 things on here I need to see. And, you know, I got to knock these down right now. Netflix kind of on fire. I haven't been on the app in a while. It's kind of on fire right now. Maybe I haven't gone back since the Tyson fight, to be fair. But yeah, all right. There you go. All right. This one's from Guillermo A. Big fan of Guillermo. Yes. Guillermo Rigondial. Yes. BC, what's happening with Top Rank and the Turkey takeover? Well, Guillermo, I will direct you to the opening of the show when your boy BC did about 25 minutes on this, and I won't regurgitate that. But I was, like I said, encouraged by that Pugmire report that, Top Rank's got a few suitors, it seems, that they are going to split up this deal. I think American boxing needs Top Rank in a powerful position, no question. And I don't know yet, meaning this 5 major promoters, Oscar, Hearn, and Warren are all in on Turkey. But Heyman, which represents PBC, which has a few different in-house promoters for sure, and Aram with in his stepson Todd running Top Rank, great organization, great people behind the scenes. I'm a big Evan Korn fan. Shout out to the corner man. Yep, big Carl Moretti fan. Are they going to be tiptoeing in the Turkey world? Are we sending, like Top Rank's got the really big guns in a way, Fury, Beterbiev. They're all Turkey bound for their big ones. But like, are we going to eventually see PBC be completely out, completely in, or is it just like piecemeal here and there? A lot of unanswered questions still. So it's fun. It's a little harrowing, but this ish is moving very quickly in my favorite sport. It's wild, and I feel like I could do a podcast a day on just like the latest rumors or what have you. Because, boxing Twitter doesn't necessarily have the same neo-Nazi vibe as MMA Twitter, but same levels of misinformation floating around. Who would have thought that? Thank you. All right. BVAW, Top Rank has been doing well in Japan. Yep. I mean, remember Top Rank made that move in China with Zhu Shiming? Like, Top Rank's usually on top of where things are coming from, My Lithuanian fighters, Aaron would say, shout out to Lithuania, but, he got on board with the Ukraine guys, all that. There you go. Let's hear more from Greg Guchamus Prime Gidley. Thank you for your support of this podcast. Best wishes to our boys, Reggie Jackson and Raw Dog. Yeah, dude, Raw Dog, who I assume you're referencing Brandon Royval. We found out as he shared the story of that really rough concussion and everything he's been going through, which led to him pulling out of that fight against Kopp, which was a great fight in that division, needed to happen. We had Raw Dog right after that fight was signed on MK, friend of the program. A lot of love for that Denver night out there. Denverite. Is that how you say it? I don't know. But hope him and the Reg Master, hope him and Reggie Jackson Campbell bounce back in a big way. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Thank you very much. I don't try to be friend fighters. I never tried to kiss up to them. Never was like, hey, let me get your number and we'll, text and I can break news off of your stuff. No, but when you find the ones that can see through what our job is here to be critical and can just say, I'm MK approved. I respect and love those guys, Sean Brady, MK approved. All right. Corey Anderson, MK approved, right? Some of those guys we had on Room Service Diaries, you're like, yo, this is my guy. This is my guy. Michael Chiesa, MK approved. There you go. All right. The Dino Don show. This guy's making some moves on this chat from week to week. Rank the Big 5 Sandman classics. Adam Sandler. Here we go. You're calling his Big 5. Yeah, it's probably a respectable take here. You're calling his Big 5 Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy, Waterboy, Billy Madison, and Mr. Deeds. Man, Mikey grabs the best questions for me when he's here. Unbelievable. I would have told you for most of my life that Billy Madison was number 1. And by the way, I think it just today or yesterday, I saw it on the old Twitter that 30 years ago, 30 freaking, this is one of those moments where it's like, BC, you're old as shit. 30 years ago, I was a junior in high school. Was I really a junior in high school 30 freaking years ago? Good Lord. And this movie came out and I saw it on a Wednesday night with my best friend, Ed, a few other chicks from high school. And I never laughed so hard to the point of almost peeing my pants. And I used to hate the idea of if you see a movie in the theater once, well, then I saw it. I'll catch it on cable when I'm flipping through, but like, I'm not going back to the theater. I always had a rule against that for some reason. Like, I'm not going back to that. I'm not going to see, outside of E.T., which I saw like 6 times in the theater. So I was like 4, and Christmas Vacation, I got dragged to 2 and 3. In the end, it's still a great movie. Billy Madison, I think I saw 4 times. I think I was just like, oh, you haven't seen it yet? We're going tonight. that'll summarize really quickly the tone of that movie, like where your boy BC was in 1995. You know what I mean? Yeah, no doubt about it. Unfortunately, like it really hasn't held up. It holds up nostalgically. I'll remember, what I thought, what I was feeling the first time I heard some of these jokes or saw some of these subtle things like, who are you? I don't even know your name. Like, all these great lines that are not even like the best lines. They're just moments that you've repeated 5,000 times to those that are close to you. But Billy Madison really was like extra sophomoric and didn't hold up. So I do have to readjust these rankings based on that when I really gave that one the big stamp of approval. And I do want to add that after his initial like peak, which I thought the first sign of like this magic run isn't what may not continue or may not be, this may not be a no hitter that we're watching being thrown, was Little Nicky. I really felt like that was like a fart and like a dank fart. Like it was okay, but it was like weird and it was whatever. So after that, I stopped like appointment viewing it. Like he stopped being my guy. Like, oh, if Sandler movie, I got to be there. Like you stop being that. But in hindsight, Mr. Deeds is great. And it's not just because a lot of those scenes were filmed downtown in New Milford, Connecticut. Shout out that weird town over there. One of the top 10 safest towns to live, according to some magazine. I bet they're not that safe, but beautiful town just the same. That's a callback, in my opinion, to his prime, right? Kind of like when Seagal was becoming, when the milk was becoming sour, and we're like, oh, Seagal's going the wrong direction. And then he comes out with Under Siege 2 on the train, and you're like, oh, he still got it. This feels like the old ones. That's what Deeds was for me. And in hindsight, now it's one of my favorites of his. But based on this list you put before me, I will have to say historically, the ranking goes like this. Number 1, Happy Gilmore. Tell me I'm wrong. You can't. Number 2, Waterboy. Number 2, Waterboy. Number 3, Billy Madison. Is that controversial? Depends what, I think, I know a lot of people watched that once and was like, that's the worst movie I've ever seen. Whatever. Number 4 is Deeds. And number 5 is Big Daddy, which I think, although it's part of his elite peak canon, it's very, very good, but it's not great. And it's a little like aimed more at a different audience than just like, if you're a goofy bastard, you're going to love this movie. Like my wife, it's her favorite. That in the Drew Barrymore one. Those are her favorite Sandler movies by far. I get why. I get it. She has a brain isn't wired like mine. Although Sandler's made some impressive return leaps, in my opinion, in various ways. Obviously, Uncut Gems is something completely different. It's his magnum opus. He should have been nominated for an Oscar. I'm not even fooling around for that performance. And I love that movie. Love it. But even Click, I thought, was underrated and was like a return to form where you're like, okay, he's doing this. That's okay. I see that. And just don't watch The Cobbler. That one was really freaking weird. Dark turn at the end. Spoiler alert. But a few other ones, even some of these family ones, like they just hit. What's that family one that he did where he was dating that Tinkerbell princess? You know what I'm talking about? He owned the hotel. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I love that one too. But I think I've been talking too long here. Oh, AZ Ray's jumping in. The Cobbler is great. I'd have to repurpose this because when I watched that live on Netflix or whatever it was on, I'm like, what the hell happened? Whatever. Spanglish. Yeah, that was one that you can pull the wife in on, might be. Alan W. Thank you, Alan. Uncut Gems might actually be number 1. Dude, I cannot believe how good that movie was. I remember when it came out, I was almost like rooting against it. Like, oh, Sandler think he's going to do like a super serious. And I know it's not the first time he'd done a more serious role, but holy crap, did he nail that, right? Like, holy crap. Damn. I actually saw him. By the way, some people are talking about the music he put out. Put out like legitimate comedic music. The Sandler album with the Talking Goat was one of my faves. My sister, when she was attending Western Connecticut State University in the mid-90s, took me to a Sandler music concert. And I thought when we were on the way there that it was going to be comedy, and I was all fired up, and I actually was disappointed. But then he won me back over. Like, he had a good body of songs you could do. Some of them were covers, but like, the SNL songs, and he could hold an audience. I'll give him that credit. All right, there you go. Thank you. Do you know Don? Uncut Gems, what? Yeah, this is how I win. Use it all the time. Mike Francesa's in that movie too. Like, come on, right? Sandler's Netflix fucking, yeah. I mean, it's hit and miss. More miss than hit, probably. He's found a groove of like acceptable films on Netflix, but you're not going to be wild or blown away or maybe watch it again. Although, was he in the with in the boat mystery? There were two of them with the chick from Friends and Jennifer Aniston. Was he in that? Because my wife and I watched those, and that was a rare movie we could watch together on that level, right? There you go. I'm talking to myself apparently. Let's keep it going though. Two Changs, my guy. Two Changs wants to know here, who's the best Dallas boxer ever? Errol Spence, Curtis Cokes, or Donald Curry? I'm going to go Spence, and I got a lot of respect for Curry. I mean, he was great. He's in the Hall of Fame too, right? I mean, he was great. And I don't know if Spence is done. But prime welterweight Spence, like not historically great, although if he had beaten Spence or if he had beaten Crawford at that point undefeated on that arc that he was on, overcoming the two accidents, which is crazy, he wasn't that far away. But man, that guy was such a skilled, mean, but technical bully in his elite run. Damn. I mean, what he did to Ugas in that dome, holy crap. What he did to Sean Porter when he was completely undisciplined and basically got lured into a brawl, but still dropped him late and figured it out. What he did to Kell Brook. Damn. I love that version of Spence so much. That mountaintop elite version of him. The Mikey Garcia fight, which I feel like as the days go on, people give him less credit for that because Mikey like really didn't go too far after that and also came up very empty in a fight that I thought was very well promoted by PBC in that Fox era. And it just was Spence kind of showing us, hey, I can box too. Watch this. He won't even hit me. It was eye-opening, even though there was, somewhat of a size difference because Mikey was moving up in weight. Two division, kind of one division, but really two divisions in a sense. I'm going to go with Spence. And I really hope for his sake that there's another chapter. I do. I thought he was a good guy. Made some mistakes, got too big on himself, made some money, partying too much, should have died in that car crash. Like really, you know what I mean? And it's irresponsible. There's a lot of bad things that went with that. But he recovered from that and came back, which is not nothing. Can he recover from this? I don't know. I don't know if he's shot. I don't know if that performance in hindsight that was so beautiful by Crawford, that was arguably the best singular performance in a big fight that I've ever seen. Brought tears to Luke Thomas's eyes. Is that because Bud's truly transcendent, or did Spence show up to that a little old and weathered? I don't know. I don't want to believe that. I want to believe everything I saw was Crawford just being who he is, a dynamic all-time great who, if he beats Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds, take off the training wheels, there's no limit to where you can rank him. Could you call him the greatest of all time? No. But it would be very hard to stop somebody from, even with him not being on the right side of the street throughout a lot of his prime, if he goes undisputed in 3 divisions in this era and moves up 3 weight classes and beats one of the, I mean, come on. That's the hook on that fight. That's the hook. Damn right. Shout out to Dallas Boxing. Shout out to 2 freaking Changs. All right. Thank you. Alan knows Top Rank is arguably the best boxing promoter of all time. I would agree with you. I would agree with you that it's arguable. The history's there. Look at their fight library. Look at the way they do it. That video they put out before the main event in the arena that I believe has inspired UFC to eventually make their own, which is awesome with the Who Baba O'Reilly song. But so many things about Top Rank is sort of classic and proper, and not without missteps or Aram, a great legend, but like, we didn't always love Aram. There were times that there were times like as a fan, you wanted to be against him too, but they've endured. They still know how to match prospects correctly, and they're still here. So in fighting. So let's see where they go. And yeah, but when it was Aram against Don King, it was a great time in boxing. That was a great, great, great time because they did come together when it mattered, because at the end of the day, both of them would take out each other's eyeballs or knock out their mother to be a part of the biggest fight and make the biggest paycheck. That was their push. That was their passion. And the competition against one another drove each one, even through the times that they took shots and were dirty with each other. And it propelled the sport, because when it's time to make De La Hoya Trinidad, they made it. You know what I mean? Like that was, I didn't love the experience of the last 2 decades where boxing became so segregated and other side of the street and all this BS. maybe I should celebrate more right now in the beginning of this Turkey Saudi era, that some of that is going away, as much as I still want everybody to have, I want everybody to eat. I want, I still want a diverse boxing landscape. I think we see in MMA when there is a monopoly, when one brand or one entity is just so dominating. And if that brand and entity begins to change a little in the wrong direction, which I personally think UFC has done over the past year and a half, it's not that this is a new topic, but I mean, I could feel it coming a long time ago, where it's just like things are changing. They're getting watered down. We're extracting as much money as possible out of the product and the fans. What are we doing here? And they're doing that in WWE right now. Am I a little afraid that they would do that in boxing? If they, yeah, a little afraid, But maybe they can clean up things in boxing that suck. Maybe, sorry, Alan, I hit that again. Maybe, I mean, look, I don't love, no one likes sanctioning bodies. Could they remove the relevance of that by propping up a Ring Magazine title per se that is the true champion of every division? Would that be a return to glory? Yeah, that'd be a great thing. That'd be an absolutely great thing. Hey, great questions today. Okay, let's keep rolling. Picture me rolling 500 bends. Okay, I got no love for these beep. That's a problem with reciting rap lyrics, right? Yeah. All right, here we go. Talk about rambling there, Street. Yeah, I'm talking about it. Houston, Texas forever, Street. Okay, there we go. Thank you. You should hate sanctioning bodies, Dino Don. I mean, they're not all corrupt. They're also all not corrupt. All right. Yeah. There you go. Alan W., just a proprietor to this proprietor. I love you, Alan W. Thank you for your support. You only hope to grow up to be like Aram. Yeah. I mean, look, I can never be as consistently salty as Aram, but good Lord, if I'm his age, with his passion, with his mind, with his physical, like, any of you that have had to travel for work at times on a regular basis, and I've certainly had years where the phone was ringing and I was, every other week somewhere, and that's when you begin to like, oh my God, my physical health is getting compromised. I'm not seeing the family enough. There's a give and take with everything. But whether I was 35 or 46, and yeah, some of it had to do with my awful diet. You go on the road for a while, you go on an 8-day trip or something, you'd be out in Vegas that well, you come back, you're dead. I mean, you're just dead. It's just like this guy, Aram. I saw a great story that Dana told on a podcast recently where he was saying that he hated Aram, but he was like, God, I respect this guy because he's in this event one day and then he flies to London the next day and he's in Japan 2 days later. And then yeah, we should all want that level of, and is that longevity fueled through spite, or maybe it's fueled for his very potent and very public love of the ganja? I got to give him credit. Back when Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. got popped for weed and was suspended and fined and all that. Like, he didn't get the Nick Diaz treatment, but he got hammered out. It was Bob who came out at that public workout and was like, I bet you a lot of you in here are probably high right now, or probably are going to go do it when you get home. So like, yeah, there you go. There you go. Shout out to him. He still got it too. He still got it. Picture me rolling. Yeah, Tupac. Tupac rules. Tupac's the best, right? Great. Have done, have used it. Thank you to, yeah. All right. Let's see what else is in this piece. Let's see who else is here. All right. Let's run them cheeks. That's what I'm talking about. 1775. That's a hell of a name. Run them cheeks. Yeah. Grab them cakes. Oh. Any band you always forget you saw live? Interesting question. Interesting. So what you're saying essentially, I think that the tone of your question is, and you guys know I've been to I think I've been to 90 something concerts. There was a time in my life when I had too much time in my hands at ESPN and I ranked the concerts in order based on a specific criteria of like your knowledge of the set list, how good was the show, how good were your seats, how good was the company around you, how good was the, apparati that you had. But if we're really ranking these things by the true factor, the music, the experience, how it made you feel, yes, I think you're asking which bands did you see, but maybe the show wasn't fully memorable, or you forgot you saw them, or then you're like, oh yeah, I did see them that one time. Well, I had been saying for years that the first concert I ever saw was 1991. The band was called White Trash. They were a ska-ish early alternative band that got some MTV play with their single Apple Pie. Not Cherry Pie, Apple Pie. Actually, the song kind of holds up if you go listen to it now. And I saw them with my parents and my sister, a couple of family members at Lighthouse Park in East Haven, Connecticut on the ocean at a free concert that the radio station put out. And I always tell people like that's the first show I was ever at. And they were throwing beer cans into the crowd and kids were getting hit. My dad's like, we're out of here. It's like that's the story. And my dad's like, no, you went to the Blood, Sweat, and Tears concert in 89 on the 4th of July, that free show with all the cousins. And I'm like, you're right. There were fireworks at the end. I completely forgot that was my first show. Now I wish I can go back and actually listen to it and knowing the band's, repertoire. Back then, I'm just sort of like, what band is this again? Oh, yeah, Spinning Wheel. Yeah, I know them. Yeah. Now I find out that, I mean, if you guys, am I the only one who knows and friggin' loves the first Blood, Sweat, and Tears album? The one where Al Cooper was not only the lead singer and arranger, wrote every song, he just directed the direction of that band and put out this incredible, weird, but incredible album. And then the band was like, yo, you're out of the band. We can't get a word in. We can't do anything we want. You're hogging the airspace. Check out that record if you get a chance. I believe it's called Child is the Father of Man or something in that regard. Really weird album cover too. There you go. She's my apple pie. Yeah. People always confuse it for that. I'm trying to think of other I saw Digital Underground once in a show that was only best remembered because of the sexual assaults going on in the crowd on spring break in Daytona Beach, Florida, which is one of the more grosser and gnarlier experiences if you've experienced it, especially if you're in your early 20s and you're experiencing it like I did. That's pretty gross too. I saw Sugar Ray, before they were famous, opened for 311, made fun of them the whole time, thought they were lame, and then they blew up, and then I forgot that ever happened. So yeah, I think it's happened a few times. Especially, the worst is when I look back and see the bands that opened, and you're like, should we stay in the car and drink a few more beers, or should we go in early and see this band we never heard of? And inevitably someone's like, yo, you're like, okay, we'll stay right here. We'll stay right here. And then years later, you're like, yo, I love that band. Were they there? So like I don't know if you guys remember the mid to late 90s alternative country band known as the Jayhawks. Fantastic band. I'll take their first two albums. Take those. They'll change your life. And then listen to the album Smile, where they got a little Wilco like. But that band opened at like 4 different shows that I saw between 97 and 99. And not once did I actually take a chance and watch it. In fact, we just made fun of the name. And then years later, I'm like, this band, that's happened. That's happened a bunch of times. All right. Yeah, every morning will hurt. Every freaking morning. Yep. There we go. Thank you for that question. 9:15 a.m. What do you got? What are some underrated boxing movies? Are we not counting Meatballs Part 2? Where the alien is, yeah, great. It's got some boxing in it. Are we not counting all right, underrated? See, the problem is like, are these underrated for you or are they awesome for you? Like Digstown rules. One of my favorite boxing movies. Is that underrated or is that properly rated? I don't know. I think Cinderella Man's a little underrated. I know it was like a big time commercial push, but I like that movie a lot. I saw it in the theater. I was kind of moved by that movie. I think that one's really underrated in a sense. It really captured, about boxing. Yes, there was a couple historical errors in there, but you're really capturing life during the Depression, and a very relatable theme in that movie of like, you're either waiting in line at the docks or you're getting in the ring in Madison Square Garden fighting for the heavyweight championship. Either way, the struggle is the same. I have to feed this family, I have to lead these people. That's always like a daunting thing when you eventually get there, no matter what headspace you're at, whether you become married and a father at 22 or 45. Like obviously there's differences in that regard, but once you're like, oh shit, I'm in charge now. Like, I've got a great partner and I've got, relatives, or you got a support system, but you're like, no, I'm in charge of not only my life but everyone around me and this mortgage, and a little harrowing. There we go. How do we get there through a boxing movie question? Oh, we're rambling. That's how. I always fail on the box movies because my recall, which is incredible in so many areas, is savant and weird. Like then in some areas I'll be like, yeah, can't think of one right now. So there you go. You got Two Chang saying Digstown definitely underrated. Cinderella Man was good. Ron Howard makes good films for the most part. Yeah. And I thought I hated Southpaw forever because it's over the top. But I rewatched that recently and I'm like, movie's kind of gnarly. It's kind of gnarly. All right. Girl Fight with Michelle Rodriguez, also solid. I don't think I saw that. I don't think so. I probably would remember if I did, right? Probably not. Alan W. Thank you, brother. Pay that man his money. That might be, Alan W. for all of the 90s movies, and was Rounders a 90s movie or was that 2000? I think it's a 98 movie. Of all those 90s movies, of like Good Will Hunting, which is arguably, along with Billy Madison, the movie I've quoted most in my life, besides Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I will say that Rounders produced, which was a great movie then, still holds up today, probably hugely responsible for the poker launch that would happen not long after that. I mean, 4, 5, 6 years after that, but like was the precursor to that for sure. But there was some really, really great lines in that. And it's funny. Somebody asked me recently, like, "Oh, who's your favorite actor? Like, who's your guy? You a Pacino guy? You this guy?" And I'm like, I'm not really an anyone guy. I guess I didn't think about that. I'm kind of a Sandler guy because I'm a weirdo like that. But I started to think, I'm like, I might be a Matt Damon guy. Maybe not an overly popular opinion, but I feel at home watching his films. All right, there we go. There you go. You're gonna get you're gonna get the Diary of a Madman, right? Just right out in front of you. Take with it what you will. Yep. There's a conversation going on there. There's one here. I mean, this is great. There's one in my head. It's fantastic. Alan W, how them socials be? We don't check them. We post and we ghost and we do not check the comments. Okay, but I hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl. Good stuff, Alan. Thank you very much. This fella's name is Oogly. All right, I'll take that. BC, you're a king among orcs. Well, all right. Bret Hart or HBK? Great question. A passionate question of mine. And I feel to some degree like when I used to have a wrestling podcast, this was the question I would ask every guest. Every guest got this question because to me, it sort of defines who you really are at the end of the day. It's like that line. I'm a Shawn Michaels guy, and I'm a Shawn Michaels guy to the bone. And I've always been, even though I obviously respect him as one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time, and for being just a salty prick nowadays, who's a great soundbite because he'll talk shit about anybody. I have always been not a Bret fan. Loved him, early as a tag team in the Hart Foundation. But you have to understand, at the point around 1990, when I would start to go, this wrestling thing, I'm 12 years old. This wrestling thing's a little lame now. WWF at that time had gotten ridiculously PG, over the top superhero level, just, and there wasn't the juicy storylines. It really was going nowhere. And then the steroid trial hits, and then like the roster's getting flipped up and WWE's, fighting for their life. The history here. I always maintained that Bret Hart became the main eventer and the player he was in that time because there was no one else, because everybody else on steroids, because it was just kind of perfect timing. And I don't mean to actually diminish, because I do believe he's one of literally the greatest of all time. I think, I'll give him a top 15 nod. Yeah, I will. But I was also representing HBK in one of the most passionate debates of all time on the GP podcast in 2016, the great Bret Hart debate that I had with one Stack Guy Greg, who I love and love potting with, where he, Bret's his cup of tea forever. And, and I am a Shawn Michaels guy, not in my top 3 or 4 or 5, but right around there. Always been a Shawn Michaels guy, even though he was an absolute a-hole in his prime and deserved to get punched in the locker room in Hartford by Bret Hart at that time, the Sunny Days situation. But I mean, him, there's no difference. There's no equal here on the mic. I mean, I love HBK, the character, so much more than Bret. Bret was a better technical in-ring performer, but I mean, who's better than Mr. WrestleMania when in the big moments? I mean, obviously Bret has some of the best WrestleMania matches of all time, by the way, not just the Stone Cold one, which actually could be number one, or even the Roddy Piper one. I mean, many of them. But check HBK's resume, right? So this may have come to not a head, but it was an interesting moment for those of you that were not following me after I left ESPN, went to CBS in 2017, and then started the In This Corner podcast, which had it became the State of Combat podcast. Had an episode for MMA, an episode for boxing, episode for wrestling, different co-hosts for each one. And my wrestling one with Nick Costos and Adam Silverstein, and then eventually just Adam when Nick left, we had Bret Hart on one time, and he's promoting some film or something. And I was like, holy crap, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. And I didn't come in there like, Bret, I'm a hater. I came in there with like the respect and all that. And I don't think we set him up. He came on, he was promoting a documentary. We asked him a million questions about the documentary. And then I believe I said something to the degree of about Brother Owen going into the Hall of Fame one day with WWE, which hasn't happened and isn't happening because of Owen's widow, who is, very much anti-WWE, and I get it. And I set it up knowing, of course, that Bret has no filter and that he's, a full-time grump and hates Goldberg and will just kind of crap on anybody. But he's, in his own way, a truth teller. He believes in his own truth. So I did set him up to kind of, I didn't know if he's going to cry. I didn't know what he's going to say. But, I thought that was important. It's a juicy question, but an important one. And he went on a rant about Martha Hart, Owen's widow, and called her an idiot and just went on this, like, full Bret, like, she sucks, she's the worst, and blah, 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 and she's ruining my brother's legacy and all this stuff. She puts out a press release about it and threatens to like sue him and all this stuff. And Bret got so pissed that he turned back on me and he emailed my co-host and I and was like, I still have the screenshot on my phone somewhere where he's like, I kindly came on the CBS Sports podcast to promote a film of which you asked me nothing of and did zero promotion for, which was untrue. And he said, all you did was set me up and this is the love I get. You two jerk offs. I will never do another interview with you or your website for the rest of my life. And you both can go fuck off. Like something just completely like out of left field. You're like, wow, Bret, dude, Bret, Bret screwed Bret. Okay. I asked you the question. You hammered out your sister-in-law. You took the L on there. But I respect Bret a lot as a performer, as a mind, as the representation of his family. Great family, right? Owen was fantastic. A lot of brothers. Shout out Stu Hart. I always ask Mauro Ranallo, who at one point stayed in the Hart house when he was calling Stampede Wrestling and dated Jenny Neidhart. Shout out to Morrow for that. The sister of Natty Neidhart. They're both the daughters of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. So, I love wrestling history. Whatever. Let's keep it going. All right, Alan W., the man. If you are Brendan, I think you're saying if I'm Shab, then Luke is Brian Callen. Oh God, Luke, me too. Wow, Luke. Long Island is the GFL. What up, B? Is that hot chip? Is GFL hot chip? See, I'm not up on it as much as people think. I come in and out. Sometimes people are like, yo, did you see that scandal going on? You see that friend of the program just won a truck, then I'll tune in. But it's an interesting idea right there in terms of, but then I have to be Shab. I don't know about that. I don't hate Shab. Whatever. Shab's whatever. Shout out to Shab. I mean, we had fun doing that. Yeah, whatever. Okay, let's go back to this. George Garcia. Thank you, George, for joining this program, for supporting this show. Oh God, we got more BAPA questions just between you and me. Okay. Everyone else cover your ears. What was your introduction to the BAPosphere? Any specific event leads you to the Friars? Again, it's just us here. What was my first See, I had never even gone on Reddit before. I knew of it, never gone on it, never met it before that sub became what it is, before the, when it launched, when Shab made that homeless cats comment and it just launched. And people, MK listen, there was a crossover between MK listeners and below the belt listeners, or T Fat K, whatever we want to call the shows, the Shab Empire. And they're like, yo, I think he's kind of stealing your material, or he just regurgitated what Luke said. So you can kind of watch that and you're like, oh yeah, it does sound kind of similar. And I was on Shab's Showtime show one time when I was at a fight in LA it was Tank. I forgot who Tank's opponent was. Was it Nunez? One of those guys. It was supposed to be Abner Maris. He got hurt. He pulled out. There was a late replacement. And they had Schaub there, and they had me on. And I felt like I went for it. I'm like, I'm on with a comedian, a guy who's like kind of, really famous and red hot and flying. And we're in the same company. And, MK wasn't around at that point. It wasn't even a thought. And I'm thinking like, maybe there's a universe where I can contribute here on Showtime Digital and we could coexist or whatever or something. So I brought it to Bappa and had jokes ready, and they were edgy. They were Eskimo Dana White joke. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of subtle stuff I'm firing. My style. I want to get dunked on. You're the pro comedian, and I'm going to set myself up for you to dunk on me. We're going to make content here. And they edited out like a bunch of that stuff. And I was like, that was interesting, but it was a little edgy. I guess I understand it. But then people were relentless. They're like, you got to check out this channel. It's out of control. You got to see this Reddit page, blah, 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 blah. So I became aware of it. And at first, I actually really believed that all these people like loved him. And this was like a fan fest of the show. And people were like, yo, BC, you gotta, if you're going to be on camera with him, you got to drop one of our lines and get him to like laugh and acknowledge it. I'm like, that's a fun idea. So the beginning of that was just sort of me just like, throwing up some throwing out some bait, see if he's gonna, catch it. I didn't realize how serious. I didn't realize how hateful it is, or whatever. I mean, it's creative, it's funny, it's can get mean spirited, but Bappa is at times a ridiculous personality, and it sums that up very well. So, no ill will toward the Bop. Have enjoyed the times we've been on camera together. He made a harsh stand against Nate Diaz, so shout out. What are you going to point for? That was great. That's one of the great lines ever. But yeah, that's about all we got to say on that. Shout out to Bappa. There we go. Just us here. Remember that. Remember that, George. By the way, shout out to Cooney and those guys, 10 Minutes of Shop. That's a hilarious show. Love those guys. Wow. All right. Alan, we don't talk about this movie on this podcast. You know that. Okay, not an underrated boxing movie. No, the one of the worst movies of all time. I still hold that grudge against my dad for leaving that voicemail on my cell phone and being like, I just saw the Academy Award-winning movie. You're gonna love it. It's like boxing's Rudy, but there's chicks. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a chance, Dad. Yeah, yeah, all right. Oh God, yeah. I never told my dad, by the way, about that. We got to have that conversation. I'd be like, Dad, you stared me wrong. I was just so mad. I'm like, never mention this movie again. All right. Alan W. again. James Braddock. Yeah, that was the boxer that Cinderella Man was focused around, who did upset his way to the heavyweight title. They forgot how Braddock fugged Joe Louis for the title. Yeah, there were a few missteps in that. That is obviously the worst. That's actually the reason I've still never seen Hurricane, the Denzel Washington one, which is probably bad in my regard. It's a boxing movie. It's one of the greatest actors of all time. Yeah, maybe I'm not a Matt Damon guy. Maybe I'm really a Denzel guy. Okay, maybe I'll just swap that out and switch that right now, because that is a guy who you will see in any movie of any topic if that guy's in it. Yes, totally. But I hate when they factual just absurdly mess with the real history of it. I probably don't care or even recognize in other films that are loosely based on real events. But man, when it's like a sports thing that you can just look up, it's like, get it right. Get it freaking right. All right. Tell him, L. Yeah. All right. Are we petering out? Do we have a few more left in me? Where are we at with this? Only I can ask myself that in the mirror, the man in the mirror. All right, Tu Cheng's back at it. Will Duke Reagan or Richard Torres ever fight for a title? It's impressive how fast Keyshawn. Yeah, it is impressive. It's impressive largely Tu Cheng's, and I know you probably believe this and echo this too, because of Top Rank's commitment to matching fighters correctly and making sure they get the right amount of rounds, the right amount of looks, the different styles, the everything. Like Top Rank doesn't F around. Other promoters can do it too, right? And they've had great moments, but the consistency of Top Rank, and Top Rank will cut that cord, by the way, like they did to Verdejo, like they did to Berlanga, like they kind of did with Bud and Shakur. Like when they feel like this isn't going the direction we want, we'll do that. They also had situations where big name Oscar and Floyd left and went on to even bigger things. But, well, I guess you can argue Floyd bigger things, maybe not Oscar, but they also made those two guys in terms of the matchmaking and how they built them up. it is impressive that Keyshawn is going so fast, but I think it's the mentality. I think it's the skill set. I also think, again, it's the era. This era wants it. They want to bang, right? Yes. But it's cyclical and everything, like my parents got married. My parents met their senior year of high school, got married at 18, had my sister at 20. And it's like, holy crap. Nowadays, it's like people like Luke getting married, having children at 40. It's just everything's weird and cyclical. But to your question, will Duke Reagan or Richard Torres ever fight for a title? I need to see more of Torres specifically to really make me believe that he's going to be a player in this heavyweight era, which is an era that we truly need young, viable heavyweights that'll be around for the next 12 years. You know what I'm saying? Because the top shelf are aging out pretty fast, although you can linger at heavyweight at an advanced age. We all know that. But I mean, it speaks to Top Rank's matchmaking that they never would have put Jared Big Baby Anderson in that fight against Bacoli where he got solved. And Jared Anderson will be back on Friday night. But, I've made that argument before of it was Turkey playing fantasy matchup and just going, I want this and this. But sometimes a little of that reckless, wild matchmaking flips the script and you can get fun moments and people can make huge leaps. I haven't seen the signs yet from Torres that he's truly, and it's early still, but like how many more fat white guys can he fight? And I know it's early and that's why I need to see more. Reagan's interesting. Yes, I believe we'll see that guy in a title fight. No doubt about it. But, I think Abdullah Mason as well, who's, a much even higher touted prospect despite getting dropped in that war that he had. That's why Top Rank can lose Bud and Shakur in succession and have Keyshawn ready, right? And have this guy ready. And by the way, do you see Teofimo rumored to be in a Ring magazine card on U.S. soil this calendar year on the Alcatraz Island, which is I've seen people maligning that, but I'm more of the ilk here that creativity in boxing is needed and it's fun. And I had that experience being on Ring City USA on NBC Sports in 2020 and 2021 when we did 7 shows and we did them from like exotic and or COVID ready, but weird locations like the parking lot of the Wildcard Gym, which was awesome. And the neighbors in the apartment buildings are sitting on their, porch or with their window watching. We did Puerto Rico and Old San Juan right in the town square. I mean, we did some really cool stuff. If that's the direction Turkey's going to go, that's only a plus, in my opinion, for this. So, but we'll see. Duke looks legit. I want Torres to be good. He seems like an honest, hard worker. Maybe we'll find that out as he keeps rising. Thank you, 2 Changs. Okay. One love. All right. There you go. LNW. What else you got to say? We homeless kittens. Sometimes we are because sometimes that Reddit page becomes too much and you're just like, yeah, I don't want to be a part of this. But then other times there's so much ridiculous stuff being documented on there that you're like, I don't even understand how this happened. Wow. Yeah. And I just can't deny it. The people on that are some of the funniest people I've ever seen before. And I know some of them are MK fans, and that's sort of how this all started. And wow. But at Logan Floyd, when I delivered Bappa's sphere lines to Bappa, I didn't know how he's going to react, but I wanted to make comedy. He wouldn't play ball. That's the part I always wonder. Like, he just wouldn't play ball. It's just like, no sell. Right. I wanted him to nip it in the bud and dunk on me and then make fun of those people and be like, yeah, but no, you just avoid it, whatever. But a lot has happened since then in that sphere. There you go. Okay. I'm going to point fight Bob. No, I'm not going to fight Bob. Bob is a legitimate guy. No doubt about it. Great athlete. Have met him. Not in this game to be fighting others, but thank you. Mr. Children, BC, we love you at Chang's. If I see an opening, if I can bring a smile to your face, you might see me on Chang's once in a while. Thank you for the love. All right, there you go. I want to hear from Bivol. He makes salient points at times. You got to give this guy his credit. How good would it be if keeping your record clean wasn't so important in boxing? I love seeing Muay Thai records where a guy will have 300 wins and 30 losses. I will say that boxing has long needed to get away from the O. And I do think there were negative effects from the Floyd era of, like, Floyd was so great and was getting so close to Marciano's 49-0 that it made sense to make the O a big part of it. But like, he made it the biggest part of his branding outside of TBE, the best ever, right? Which caused a lot of conversation. Oh, you think you're better than Ali? And you know, Floyd was always saying, I'm the best, all businessman, fighter, all that. Floyd marketed the hell out of himself, but it did put this over reliance upon the idea of maybe not challenging yourself because let me keep that undefeated record as long as I can to get into that really big fight to cash out at the end. That kind of became the working model for guys, and people were forgetting how Floyd actually earned it for years on a pound for pound #1 level, taking on people like Corrales and Castillo twice and so many other, Manfredi, so many other great fighters. So you got to still earn it. I love that we're slowly getting away from that. And I think like one of the big turning points is actually when Julian J. Rock Williams got knocked out by Jamal Charlo, and everyone wrote him off because it was the first round. Was it that? No, that wasn't the first round. It was the Lubin was the first round. It was early in the fight. And then J. Rock comes back and upsets Swift Hurd for the unified title. And I remember at that time, it was really like, okay, like we need to stop putting the scarlet letter on people for one loss. Yes, it looks great when you go back and watch a fight like Bo Holyfield won. It's unbeaten champion against unbeaten challenger. Those are the best moments ever. Fury Usyk won, same unbeaten champion versus unbeaten champion. It's great. But I love that we're shifting away from the mindset and adopting more, maybe not a full Muay Thai mindset, but more of a UFC MMA mindset that like losses are part of the story. You can come back from them. You learn things. When greats fight greats, only one can be truly great, right? And I do like, and that's why I want to be a critic, watchdog of this major change that's happening in boxing led by Turkey. But I also want to, as we try to say on this show, celebrate the wins. And Turkey is doing some things that are absolutely fantastic. And I think his push of, I'm going to put guys in fights a little earlier. I'm not, we're going to make stars and great fights and make the sport great. I know there's other elements, sports-wise, there's a lot of elements in this picture, but that thing speaks to fight fans, and that's great. This new era of fighters, and I think Ryan Garcia is leading that charge, even through his own ridiculousness of saying, like, I don't care, man. I want to be in big fights. I want to make big money. I want to make big splashes on social media. I want people to look back. Like, I feel like every fighter should want Oscar De La Hoya's legacy, short of the partying and fishnets, right? I mean, short of that side of it, but that pure reputation of great fighter, all-time great skills. But even though he lost more than he won in the big ones in the second half, he wanted all the smoke. He made the biggest fights. He didn't like, that's what it's becoming. Okay. You're right, Matt. Ryan wants all that smoke, and it's becoming a thing that it's more about who'd you fight? What moments did you make? That's what the 1980s were all about. That's why the four kings would face each other 9 times in 10 years and trade losses and great moments and memories. The sport really needs that. You do have to be careful sometimes. Am I a little nervous that Floyd Kid Schofield is going to go get sunned by Shakur and like not recover? Yeah, you're always going to have that type of nerves. Jared Big Baby Anderson, but Big Baby also had other issues before that loss that were threatening to derail what could be a promising young American heavyweight. So yeah, there we go. We got 2 Changs. We got 3 of them. That's great. Manuel Augustus says Bivol had a terrible record, but that was one of those great journeymen who was always entertaining, so many times in fun fights, but could give anybody with his drunken master routine a tough night, including Floyd, who still to this day says that's his toughest fight when they fought on that weird HBO series that they put out, KO Nation, where they had a DJ in there and they had Ed Lover. Remember that? Like, I give, in hindsight, even though if you turn that on now, it looks insanely dated. In hindsight, I give HBO at that point, on top of the sport, budgets, flowing, that they tried something like that. They tried something urban like that and different, away from the, we're going to put our bow tie on and make boxing look like it's not ridiculous, All right. Yeah, there it is. Alan, I don't know where you're going with this, Alan. Maybe this is tied to a different discussion, but thank you for your time and your purpose. I believe in your purpose, baby, coming through to the surface. And let's hear from Arturo. All right. Thoughts on Unstoppable, Jonas versus Price card. Let's check this out. Let's check out what we're talking about here. All right. Yeah. I thought you were referencing Natasha Jonas here. Facing Lauren Price. This is a boxer card. This is on Sky Sports March 7th, Royal Albert Hall. Certainly knew about this fight. Certainly loved this late surge in her late 30s for Natasha Jonas, the all British world title unification. I don't know a lot about her opponent, Price. I certainly know the name. And what do we got? We got another Dubois in the undercard there. Caroline Dubois. Interesting. I have not really seen the depth of this undercard, and to be fair, do I have holes even as a elite boxing journalist? But like, yeah, there's going to be holes because I'm covering two combat sports at the highest level at once and doing a million different things. Sometimes there's holes on my like UK knowledge where the PBC preliminary level, I can tell you everything that's going on. So, I'm going to check that out, Arturo. I certainly have enjoyed the Natasha Jonas experience. As I said, maybe I'll get surprised on there, but some of that burned into me 90s British boxing bias still comes out at times where I'm like, is that really a big deal? Let me check that out. I'll be watching Catterall Barbosa though. You better believe that. Thank you. Thank you all as always, AZ. This is this guy, Alan W, the best. If you are, oh, you already hit me with that. Thank you. Thank you. All right, couple more, and we're gonna put this thing down. Here we go. J Ray B02. Great name. Thank you. Update. 23rd birthday on February 2nd. Yes, you had reached out about this age 23 in the past on this show. It ended in the back lot of an old Sears doing whippets. My dinner from my favorite local spot spewing out the front and back. I mean, look, that's a great night where I come from at that age. Maybe not 20. Well, actually, at 23 too. That was a pretty decent night for me. Hope it was worth it. Hope you enjoyed it. Did you have Taco Bell by any chance? But were you really? I hope no one's looking to honor the reputation of 90s BC by doing some of these practices now. Please don't do that. Don't go behind the Arby's lot. And yeah, but it is pretty epic and hilarious. Happy 23rd to you, Jay Balls. Just the same. All right, there you go. Thank you very much. Oh, this was the Alan one I was trying to post to clean it out here. Thank you, Alan, as always, for getting our back here. Bapa's Schwab's brand crashed after he went at Bobby Lee. That did seem like a really big turning point. It did. And hopefully things are going well there business wise. I've DM'd Chin a few times. I like Chin. Shout out to Chin. DM'd him a few times. And yeah. At one time, no, forget it. We'll tell the story another time. All right, there we go. Thank you, Alan. That Bobby Lee was a rough turn. So was the Ariel feud, to be fair. That was kind of a rough turn for him too, publicly, but whatever. I try not to go down these roads of public feuds. I try to get along with people. Okay, there we go. There it is. Final one here from good old Two Changs. One love, baby. Best trainer of all time. Arcel, Stewart. A lot of names you can put in here. Dundee, Roach. How about Ann Wolf with James Kirkland? Shout out. Yeah, there's certainly a few. What would I say? Eddie Futch? Who would I say is the greatest of all time? I mean, a lot of these guys I certainly didn't see. I feel like I watched Angelo Dundee through the amount of Ali and Leonard fights that were so prominent in the 80s, in my youth of learning about this sport, that he's certainly got to be up there. I mean, Manny Stewart did really have a nice diversification where he built his reputation upon that great run at the Kronk Gym, putting out knockout artist after knockout artist and teaching in that specific style of knockout sell fights and you're a badass and all that. And, when you're a Kronk guy, you're a Kronk ass guy. I mean, that is a stamp you are proud of. But to see him evolve into like the heavyweight whisperer with Lennox and by the way, Manny took Oliver McCall to the Lennox fight as a favor to Don King and won it, and then left him to start to train Lennox, trained Vlad Klitschko, really turned both Lennox and Vlad Klitschko around from knockouts where they were kind of questionable. And even though sometimes people criticize the older version of Emmanuel Stewart for he always had a great thing to say about everybody, right? He was not a negative guy. I always loved interviewing him. He did say things early that people weren't ready to hear that did turn out to be true. Like when Tyson Fury was a bungling 6'9", often overweight guy who would get into fights where he'd be like, this guy's not a real heavyweight. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Up until the Klitschko fight, which everyone picked Klitschko by knockout, I'd seen flashes from Fury, but just too inconsistent and too ridiculous. and then he puts out a performance of a damn lifetime. Stewart had basically said from the first time he ever worked with Fury as a young 20-something that this guy's going to be the heavyweight champion of the world one day. And I remember hearing that and being like, I don't care what you saw, Stewart. Are you not? This guy punched himself in the face that time. Like, this is ridiculous. So Stewart is in this conversation for sure. In terms of the guys I've seen, in terms of the guys that, I covered and interviewed and seen, I mean, you can't really go against Freddie Roach, even though he did hit a tipping point when he became too famous as the wild card coach of Manny, and suddenly every big star is coming to him and looking to get, refurbished, and you can't win them all at that point. But I have a lot of respect. I think Robert Garcia could end up being in this conversation too. He's had a nice diverse palette of fighters and certainly has a specific style and a temperament that is still up there and is still on par. I'd have to, go over the old names and specifically kind of look at who they train. I mean, shout out to Customato, right? Shout out to the 3 world champions that guy was a big part of pushing. But if you want to have Stewart, Arcel, you want to have Dundee, that's all good in that regard. Sometimes I like to put the limit and say, okay, let me talk about the people I've covered. Let me talk about people I can really speak to you on that regard. Sometimes, I don't know, it's weird. It's easier when sports are based purely more on statistic, like an NBA or MLB. I feel like you can better compare historically across eras. Boxing sometimes harder in that direction. All right. Stephen, weren't Manny and Roach both students of Eddie Futch? Absolutely. That coaching tree, that Belichick coaching tree, shout out to that. All right. No doubt about it. All right. That's it. Oh, final one from Alan. Oh my God. Here. Yeah. That underrated here. And I said this, by the way, to Sugar Hill Stewart, who is, of course, Tyson Fury's trainer, representing Kronk Gym, the nephew of the late Emmanuel Stewart. Used to be, Javon Hill, called him Sugar Hill, changed his name legally to Sugar Hill Stewart. Told me, by the way, when I called fights with him on the prelims to Morel Benavidez a few weeks ago, told us behind the scenes that his name has been mispronounced forever. It's not Javon, it's Javin. That's some Lennox Lewis bullshit. I'm like, dude, you should have told us from day one. We wouldn't have butchered this. Remember when Lennox Lewis comes out with that, like long after retirement? He's like, by the way, you guys got my name wrong for years. There was this dude when I was a high school football reporter, was like the stud running back, led this school that's never known for football to a state run, all this stuff. I wrote 50 articles about him. I find out like 15 years later, I've been spelling that kid's first name wrong, and nobody told me. It's like, come on. Damn. Anyway, Sugar Hill, I was talking to him because this was like one of his first big broadcasting opportunities. He got better as those fights progressed, and we were talking about projecting your voice and some of the tips of getting better. And I'm like, to be honest, your uncle may be the greatest trainer of all time. Would not be wrong to say that, but he's like legit one of my 3 favorite boxing broadcasters of all time. And it's for those, and obviously he had the expertise, the experience, and just that beautiful, charming temperament. But the one-liners, Alan Dubs, the one-liners, dude, this drives me nuts. No, just kidding. The one-liners, oh my God, look at this. I did a tribute to him during one of those, I think it was the Pitbull Cruz fight. I was like, look at this. Just honoring the great Manny Stewart. What did he say during Gotti Ward? He said, here comes Gotti for sure. Let's go to the body, son. But he also had that one line where he goes, fights like this, you dream of. We thought this could be fight of the year. We didn't realize this could be fight of the day. I mean, was that his line? Or am I confusing that with Lampley? Some of those were his lines. That, by the way, is okay. Gotti Ward won and Castillo Corrales won, which I think are the 2 greatest fights of this century in the modern era, also happen to have the 2 of the greatest announcing performances from teams that we've ever seen. And it makes sense when a fight is great, especially as the rare fights that I've called that were really good, the better the fight, the more passion you're putting in, the more theater you're bringing to the table, the more you're honoring the 2 in the ring and trying to do your best to add to the soundtrack of what's happening, right? So it's not ridiculous of a notion that would be the case. But go back and listen to the call of Jim Lampley Larry Merchant and Emmanuel Stewart during Gotti Ward 1. I mean, there are so many all-time great one-liners and moments and emotions, and oh my God, Frank Cappuccino's going to let him fight, right? You stop it, Frank. We all know them. But so is Corrales Castillo 1, Steve Albert, and Al Bernstein, who were so great together. And while it's funny, I was talking to Mauro Ronaldo about the our favorites. Well, we both have a desire and obsessive love for the craft of calling fights. And I was like, I think my favorite team of all time, although if you ask me tomorrow, I might say Lampley, Merchant, and Stewart, right? Or Lampley, Merchant, and Foreman. Like, we all have so many favorites. But in reality, like, the duo that made me was Barry Tompkins and Al Bernstein in the late 80s and early 90s when the two of them called Top Rank on ESPN. I loved their flow, their conversation. It was years later where Barry would tell me that they purposely tried to present, we're not play-by-play in color. We're just two guys at the end of the bar who love boxing, and we're taking you through this journey. And that mindset is what I try to bring to the table, no doubt. But then Mauro's like, I actually think Steve Albert and Al Bernstein together are the greatest pair of all time. And I'm like, you know what? You might be right. You might be right. Like, I'm glad that Steve Albert got into the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago and that people revere him now. And he's obviously better known, as his brothers are, for NBA and many other sports, the Albert family, outside of what Marv did that time with the just legends. But what a call on Corrales Castillo. What a damn call. Damn. It's like, it just gives you goosebumps to recall these moments, and when the call just makes it, right? Makes it. Two Chanks knows. He knows about Tompkins and Bernstein together. So great. Okay. Damn. Two Chanks hit me with Winky schooling Mosley. So underrated. Both fights. Two great performances there by Winky. Unbelievable that Mosley, a justifiable Hall of Famer, could have back-to-back losses to both Winky Wright and Vernon Forrest, and both times people being like, man, he bit off more than he could chew. He shouldn't have gone back. Maybe he's not the guy. Turns out he is the guy. He was the guy. He's still the guy. Rewatched the Margarito fight when he reminded all of us. When Jen Mosley, his ex-wife, through the divorce process after cleaning him out, said to him, she took the world titles in the divorce and said to him, yeah, you're going to lose anyway. Just go make the payday. And he went in there and he blasted Margarito's doors off. One of the greatest, divorce dad, triumphal. Most divorce dads in this spot have to grow the ponytail and buy the sports car. He's like, no, I'm just going to blow up a loaded gloved Margarito. Thank you very much. Okay. I think that's the end of it. That is the end of it. Great stuff. Good times. Great oldies. Okay. Is it really the end? Margarito fight was epic, and then he gave Floyd a tough ass fight. Yeah. You're right. You're right about that. Well, Mosley, you can argue really came the closest with those two punches in round 2 that Floyd had to hold and by the way, great recovery instincts from Floyd. Just great. But what's crazy is that as great as Mosley was in the first 2 rounds and as dangerous as he was in round 2, he did nothing the rest of the fight, nothing. And obviously the adjustments that Floyd made are legendary, and that's what Floyd's all about. But even Mosley would say after that, he just felt like he was in quicksand after that. He almost blew his load, so to speak, in that moment. Didn't gas himself out, but sort of just wild. But yeah, he was in there against Floyd. Miguel Cotto needs to be no one's underrating Miguel Cotto, but his performance against Floyd at 154 in that fight needs to be re-examined, and very impressed. Won 4 rounds against that version of Floyd, bloodied his nose. Miguel's a real one. He really is. Okay. Great calls in John Anik history. Both guys going through custody battles. Absolutely. We'll never forget that. Just like when I said after Brandon Figueroa knocked out Luis Neri and they brought Stephen Fulton in the ring, and you remember that Showtime moment in was that Carson, California, where I said September 11th. Can't wait. You imagine if I was like, yo, by the way, Building 7 can't come down the way it did. All right, peace, we out of here. That would be the best way to end it. Look, I'm just lingering here. Mayweather Cotto is so underrated. Yeah, it really was. Floyd showed he could still be a dog in there. And what's crazy is the narrative coming in was that, okay, this will be great. This is a future Hall of Fame world-class opponent, but too bad they didn't fight 5 years ago before Cotto was washed. I remember saying that out loud. That of course I wanted Floyd versus Manny at Floyd versus Cotto at 147, literally right after Cotto beat Mosley before he lost to Margarito. That would have been the time, and that matchup still is one I like to debate what it looked like, what it would happen. I thought post Margarito that this was going to be a diminished Cotto. I didn't see that middleweight run coming. I didn't know that he would return to form in this fight against Mayweather, but the pride he has, the pure boxing skills that he has, damn, two Changs, right? You were watching that in college. Great time. I mean, was it at Oregon? Probably. Great time in your life. Okay. Screw you, like BC. I'm not going to let you go because I need to bring up one of your favorite fights. Yeah. Paul Williams, Sergio Martinez 1 is one of the most underrated fights at 54. Paul Williams, Margarito, as I talk about a lot, from Carson, California, July 14th, 2007, is also such a great underrated title fight that no one talks about anymore. But yeah, obviously, for all the attention that the second Williams Martinez fight rightfully gets for the knockout of the year, one of the most brutal one-punch shots in this modern history, that first fight, which I think Martinez got robbed, by the way, that first fight is so good. So good. I freaking loved that run of Sergio Martinez. And it coincides perfectly with the fact that the first fight I covered in person working for ESPN 2011 was Sergio Martinez versus Sergey Zinzaruk. So that sort of helps that. But that run of Sexy Sergio, where we were just basically like, can he get himself in a Floyd or Manny fight? He was willing to cut down to 150 to fight them. When he was number 3 pound for pound behind those two guys, I mean, he might have avoided Golovkin eventually. We're not gonna lie about that, right? But who didn't, including Miguel Cotto. Okay. One more from Alan W. Bastards of Baseball on Netflix. B. Thanks for hanging at Chings. All right, I'm gonna watch that, Alan. You know, I might even watch that tonight, and I'm gonna get back to your ass. Okay, you better believe that. Now, though, now I'm gonna sign off. I can't thank you guys enough. I wouldn't be here 2 hours and 42 minutes later if you weren't still here with me. We talk in circles, usually about the same topics, but hopefully we got some good vibes. Hopefully you were able to pause the noise outside that's calling your name every second. And hopefully you were able to get a little nostalgia, a little passion, a little of your questions answered, and a little of you guys supporting me. Thank you for what you do. I'm going to keep doing what I do. Please check me out March 1st in Brooklyn when Tank Davis returns against Lamont Roach Jr. I'm so freaking excited to be doing that, to be re-teaming up with the great Mauro Ranallo and the great Abner Morris. Let's go. Let's go. Alan's like, yo, one more for my heart, baby. Sergio versus De La Hoya at 154. Could you imagine? I'm still going with Oscar, but could you imagine? Which 154 version of Oscar would I take? Probably the second Mosley fight. He got robbed in that. The second Mosley fight. If I take that version of Oscar against what's mountaintop Sergio, would probably be, yeah, the Paul Williams knockout. I'm still going to take De La Hoya in a split decision over 12 rounds. Thank you. Excellent ramble. Thank you, Bivol. Excellent questions. You guys were real ones. But until then, let's take care of it upstairs. And if there's some issues, it's the time to reach out. It's the time to talk about it. It's the time to push the stigmas away and be like, I got to take care of myself because I can't be the dad, husband, student, son, parishioner, employee, person that I need to be. If you put yourself first and unlock the magic inside of you, you're not going to believe what's going to happen next. That's the last thing I'm going to say right now. Drug rugs for life. Take care of yourself. And we are out of here. All right. Wow. What a